Well, hello, and welcome back. Yeah, we're doing another Sunday one. It happens. Next week I'm going to try to aim for Saturday, mainly because of Minecraft, but yeah, it's coming down to the wire. We're getting close to Summer Games Fest. Yeah, let's go with Summer Games Fest. Not E3, because E3 is dead and gone, as it deserves. And so, yeah, I guess Summer Games Fest. So we got a few things about that, and, other related stuff. This is not the prediction stream. Usually I do like a big E3 Summer Games Fest prediction stream. That is not this one. That'll be next week. I will probably give a few predictions this week just because of the State of Play announcement. But I'm planning on saving all my actual predictions for next week. Just because I think it makes more sense. It's more logical to do, the week before every big thing happens. The only predictions I'll probably give this week is Minecraft, because Minecraft's big show is the 30th, which I think is next Saturday. So I have to do them before anybody else. But other than that, everybody else's show, I think, starts on the 2nd with PlayStation, and then goes through the 5th for Summer Games Fest, and I think the 7th for Microsoft. We still don't know Nintendo's at the moment. It'll happen. It's like 99% chance it's going to happen. But whereas PlayStation's actually doing theirs within like a few days of everybody else's, Nintendo's probably going to wait closer till the end of the month. I don't know. It'd be cool if they all of a sudden, we wake up Monday morning and it's like, hey, tune in tomorrow for a new Nintendo Direct. 45 minutes. That'd be really cool. I don't expect that to happen, but it'd be cool. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. So we got a few news things, all kind of centered around PlayStation this week. There is a Nintendo thing, because fucking WNDs. And for WIBE, I actually have 2 video games. Yeah, the podcast that always talks about video game news, but never talks about actual video games, is going to be talking about video games. Holy shit. So I got 2 of those. I did see the Mandalorian and Grogu, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about Parade of Horribles, because I did finish the book. I said I was going to finish it. Sure enough, I did. I didn't finish it until yesterday, but I did finish it. And yeah, holy shit. Oh, I called the episode the Mando and the Baby. I was going to name this episode 7 Years Since Star Wars. Fuck. I knew, because I thought of a good name last night. At least the one better than the one I did. And god damn it, I forgot. Whatever. And we're playing New Super Mario Bros. My goal is to finish the game today. I do think realistically, we're going to go back and do World 4. But from there, we're going to go to World 5, 6, 7, and then 8's the end. So I think we'll be able to finish it in like 2-ish hours. I don't know. I got a lot to say about Parade of Horribles. So hopefully that'll take a while. But, we'll see. We'll see. Alright, with that, let me boot up New Super Mario Bros. So we ended off in the soda jungle. So I'm just going to kind of pick up from there. And we're going to head back to the water area. So yeah, I think we want to head back to Frosted Glacier. I think that makes sense. And then from there, we can just go back and head down at the split. Yeah, sparkling waters. I usually don't like water levels. Like, I know a lot of people hate ice worlds. Ice worlds don't really bother me. It's water levels I don't like. That's my pet peeve. So I'm not entirely looking forward to this one, but I think we'll be fine. It's been a while, I'm a little rusty. You know how it goes. Alright, so for gaming news, we got 3 stories. 2 of them are PlayStation related. We got a good PlayStation story, a bad PlayStation story, and then we've got a Nintendo story. Plus, like, 2 bite-sized things that we'll talk about. But yeah, it's not too much. I will be honest, there were a lot of PlayStation stories this week. I kind of melded them all together into just 2 stories. But PlayStation was making a lot of moves this week. Not a lot of good moves, as people will say. You know, they're just a wee bit controversial at the moment because of everything going on, and we'll get to it. But yeah, PlayStation was the talk of the town this week, in the same way that Microsoft had their own day in the shine last week. But there is a Nintendo thing, and God, we'll talk about it. Fucking WNDs, man. I don't get it. I don't get it, but Nintendo, they'll Nintendo alright. I mean, there's nothing we can do to stop them, that's for sure. Not that I always want to stop them, sometimes I'm totally down. This is actually not one of those times. But it's fucking Nintendo, man. Alright, let's start off with PlayStation. So PlayStation sat down this week and was like, hey, you know, with Summer Games Fest right around the corner, we're going to be doing a showcase. Now, PlayStation infamously was the first of the studios to step away from E3. Most other studios held on, you know, at least for a while. Like, PlayStation stepped away in, like, 2018. Whereas most of the others stuck on and through, you know, COVID. And even like Nintendo stuck with them, even when Xbox jumped ship. Nintendo was still like, yeah, we support the ESA. You know, it doesn't help that they fucking founded the thing, and them and Sega, and then they're trying to use it to lobby the government. Which they are, by the way. The ESA, E3 may be dead, but the organization that runs E3, ESA, they're still around. They're still lobbying the US government to try to take away your consumer rights. That has not changed. But that's what the ESA does. They're a fucking evil organization. And yeah, they got away with being evil, and gamers don't give them enough shit because they ran E3. It's fucking bullshit, but that's just the way it sadly goes. Because something, you know, we live in hell, something. So yeah, PlayStation's going to be doing a showcase on June 2nd. This is before everybody else's. You know, Microsoft's is on the 7th, Summer Games Fest is on the 5th, and so they're going to be doing their showcase first. It's going to be over an hour long. We don't know, I saw someone say 90 minutes. I have not heard that 90 minutes anywhere else. The only one I have for sure heard is 60. I want to say in the official tweet when they talked about this and they announced it, it was, hey, you know, over 60 minutes or around 60 minutes. It's going to be a long showcase either way. The big thing they say in the initial, you know, reveal that this is happening is that we're going to be getting an extensive look at Insomniac's Wolverine. Because Wolverine is their big title game. It comes out, I guess, September 15th? I thought it came out in October. I don't know why I thought it came out in October. And we really have not seen much of it. And so I thought, you know, we still had some time. I mean, this is technically the big... I mean, it got re-revealed a while ago. And this is technically our big showcase. I'm just kind of surprised we hadn't seen more of it up until this point. Because it was not at the last State of Play. You know, they did the big re-reveal 2 State of Plays ago. And then it just did not show up at the last one, which kind of surprised people. But no, we know we're probably going to get an extensive look at it. Probably over 10 minutes of this, you know, hour-long showcase. I would not be surprised if at least 10 minutes of it is just Wolverine, maybe more, but I think it's going to be at least 10 minutes. which doesn't surprise me. That's kind of what I expected. They specifically say they're going to be looking at the brutal combat system, because based on the last trailer we got, you know, this game is supposed to be more bloody, more violent, which I don't want to be a prude, but blood and violence doesn't really do anything for me. You know, I don't really care about incredible violence. That's not really, like, a selling point, you know? I was never a big Mortal Kombat fan. Not that I, like, hate it and think it should all, like, go away. Fuck, I hate bloopers. Yeah, I don't think violence needs to, like, go away or disappear or whatever. I'm not the biggest fan of it. You know, we see enough horrors in our lives already. I know for some people, video games are the release from that. Not really for me. But people are excited for it. Good for them. And yeah, seeing, you know, hopefully the combat system will be more complicated than just pressing square. I don't know, I say that, but then I think of, like, fighting games, and they're, like, combos, and at a certain point, it just gets, you know, too complicated for a casual audience. Like, there's a reason Street Fighter 6 found massive success by introducing its modern mode, which just simplified everything and made the game far more approachable for your average consumer. At least, that's my perspective on things. But yeah, it's gonna be cool to see Wolverine again. I will definitely be playing Wolverine. I am excited for it. So, yeah, getting another big reveal is going to be nice. Now, all this PlayStation announcement comes at the same time earlier this week. Who is it? Herman Holtz, who is the PlayStation Studio business head, said during a meeting on Monday of this week, or I guess last week, that PlayStation is going to be focusing on single-player console exclusives again. Specifically, they're not going to be bringing single-player games to PC anymore. Whereas prior to this, you know, if you got a new PlayStation game, it would come to consoles, and then about a year later, it would come to PC, you know, games like Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Ghost of Yotei didn't. That's kind of the one that stopped this whole... I'm trying to think of other PlayStation exclusives. I don't think any of the Uncharted's ever came to PC. God, why can I not think of any other PlayStation games? Astro Bot never came to PC, because, yeah, you couldn't with the way that game is. But yeah, PlayStation has said, because this was already rumored by Jason Schreier previously, but now they've basically confirmed that, yes, the strategy of bringing a game to console first, and then a year later bringing it to PC, PlayStation is no longer going to be doing that strategy. And this comes after Xbox said something very similar. Now, not exactly the same, you know, Xbox still has Windows and Windows Game on PC, but I do definitely feel like after years of, you know, what people were calling the death of the console exclusive, it looks like, no, console exclusives are coming back, because at the end of the day, console exclusives sell systems. Despite what ball and gun gamers will have you think, no, people do not buy consoles for ball and gun games. They buy consoles for console exclusives. Your Spider-Mans, your Uncharted. I think The Last of Us came to PC. That sounds right. The Last of Us, you know, stuff like that. People buy consoles for their exclusives. And mostly, they're single-player exclusives. I don't know how many people care about multiplayer exclusives, but clearly they don't care that much, because Concord is not doing that well. Marathon doesn't seem to be doing amazing. I mean, I think it's doing okay, but it's not doing great. So yeah, the shifting focus onto, no, we're going back to single-player exclusives does make sense. And I've seen a lot of people defending this move, and I kind of, you know, I'm a Nintendo fan. So obviously I'm a little biased because Nintendo is all about exclusives. They'll never bring their games to PC. I was amazed that Nintendo was making smartphone games. I'm surprised they're still fucking making smartphone games. So it makes sense. Consoles, you know, you want people to buy this console, here you go. I do, however, I at least understood the strategy of, hey, our game is exclusive on consoles for a year, and then it comes to everything else. Then it comes to PC, PlayStation, Switch. That made sense. Like, you know, Microsoft with Indiana Jones. Or, you know, hopefully Microsoft with Starfield. Starfield's another one that, you know, it came to PlayStation. I think it's going to be coming to Switch sooner or later. It makes sense. I don't mind that strategy. Yes, even as a Nintendo fanboy, I don't mind the strategy of, hey, you know, let's do a year of exclusivity before bringing our games to other systems. I get that. That's more appealing. Especially because, you know, as someone who, you know, doesn't play much Xbox, Xbox makes some decent games. They had a pretty good run last year. They're having a pretty decent run this year so far. And so the idea that, oh, well, I can't play this Xbox game on my, you know, I don't play it on Xbox, but hey, maybe I'll play it on PlayStation. I don't really have a PC, but, you know, maybe it'll come to Switch. I don't know, I've heard the Indiana Jones port was actually pretty decent. The Fallout port, I mean, it was Fallout, it ran fine for Fallout 4. Yeah, no, I don't hate the 1 year later exclusivity. I feel like that's a good middle ground. But if we're going on back to console exclusives, that's the way it's gonna be, because console exclusives do work. They really do. I mean, I wouldn't if it wasn't for console exclusives, I would have never bought a PS4. Just straight up. Same thing, probably same thing with a PS5. But to be fair, I had hoped PS5 was gonna have more console exclusives than it did. And then they just fucking did nothing. Like, yeah, we got a few things here and there. We got a Spider-Man, we got an Astrobot, which Astrobot's great. But overall, I would say that, yeah, console exclusives on PlayStation have been a little bit of a letdown. Because that's the other thing is, well, yes, single-player games are going back to being exclusive. Multiplayer games are still going to be cross-platform. Which I think also makes perfect sense. Because when you really think about it, multiplayer games live and die based on their player base. The more people playing a game, the higher chance of success a multiplayer game will find. So something like, you know, Marathon coming to both PlayStation and PC makes a lot of sense, because you want a big player base. Something like, I don't know, the new Horizon game coming to PlayStation and PC makes a lot of sense, because you want a big player base for that. And we'll talk more about that one in a second. But yeah, no, I think this is all... I do think at the end of the day, it is good news. Because it does seem like PlayStation learned their lesson from their multiplayer push. You know, they did this big multiplayer push, they bought Bungie, we'll talk about that one in a second as well. And they were going to pivot the company, and then nobody gave a shit. Concord failed, Marathon's doing kind of whatever, they had to cancel that Last of Us multiplayer game. Clearly, their big push towards multiplayer failed, and now PlayStation's just going back to what worked, which was high-quality single-player games, which is just what people wanted the whole time. It's literally that fucking SpongeBob meme about, oh, this is what we wanted the whole time. Because I do not give a shit about PlayStation multiplayer games. I don't know anybody who really cares about PlayStation multiplayer games. I mean, Destiny barely fucking counts. I don't know anybody who's playing Marathon. So yeah. So with this showcase, I do think this has to be the biggest showcase in years. Because the fact that they're doing this, we'll talk about it at the end, but they're showing it in theaters. You know, this showcase has to be big. I don't think PlayStation will have fully pivoted overnight It's not like, oh, all of a sudden PlayStation's going to be making all these single-player games. But they're at least going to hopefully be doing a little better. I say that, but the 3 things I'm about to talk about next are all multiplayer related, so I don't know how that helps. But yeah, I have hopes for this PlayStation Showcase. The one thing I am questioning is, I would like to think GTA 6 is going to show up at one of these 3 showcases. Xbox, PlayStation, or Summer Games Fest. We're going to see GTA 6 at some point. And if I had to bet, I would say that GTA 6 being at State of Play is the most likely scenario. I think it's more likely than Summer Games Fest. I think it's more likely than the other thing. I know some of the leakers, if you listen to them, are saying like, no, Rockstar's actually going to hold off and do their own thing. And I do think that is possible, definitely. But I could also see us just getting a little something because of, you know, Summer Games Fest and whatnot. So I could see GTA being at one of these showcases, which would already make it a huge showcase. But, so, okay, I'm not going to give predictions for the State of Play. We'll do that next week, when we actually, you know, are just a few days away from the State of Play. Obviously, I'm going to live react to it. You know, the nice thing about this thing being announced 2 weeks beforehand is that I can actually take some time off to do it. Because I've already had, like, my days off for Summer Games Fest and, the Xbox Showcase. Well, one of those days I already had off anyways. But the other one, you know, I already had scheduled months in advance. So, I don't gotta worry about that. And this PlayStation one's gonna be easy enough to get off. It's gonna be fucking Nintendo who announces their thing like, oh, here's, you know, not even 24-hour notice that we're doing the showcase. That's the one that's gonna kill us. But I do kind of hope the Nintendo Showcase happens next week anyways. Having everything in 1 week is just so convenient. It's so nice. But okay, the PlayStation stuff I do want to talk about, mainly because it's all relevant and with other news stories this week, is the multiplayer stuff. So specifically, that Horizon's Hunter's Gathering, currently going on right now as far as I'm aware. They are doing the beta test for Horizon Hunter's Gathering. Because like it or not, Horizon is a multi-million-dollar franchise. You know, that the second game may not have sold that well, you know, in comparison. But the first game sold like 20 million units. The first Horizon game did fucking crazy. And I know some people say, oh, it's an industry plant, it's blah, blah, blah. You can't be an industry plant if you're made by one of the big 3, you know, studios. People don't know what an industry plant is. All this mixtape discourse has just reminded me, keyword reminded me, that people have no idea what an industry plant is. People have no idea what it means to sell out. People have no idea what it means to be a poser, or as the kids are using, LARPer. People are fucking stupid. And yeah, Horizon's not an industry plant. It's just a good game. And you know, if someone says it's their favorite game of all time, I mean, I don't agree with them, but you know what? If it's their favorite game of all time, I'm happy for them. Truly. Because it's their favorite game of all time. Who am I to fucking judge, you know? So I do expect, you know, with the beta going on, I don't think we have a release date for Horizon Hunter's Gathering. I'm going to double check right now. Horizon Hunter's Gathering. We do not, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a release date. So that would not surprise me. I did actually get invited to the Horizon Hunter's Gathering beta. They did invite me, and I just didn't go check it out. Another one is Sony this week filed the trademark for Break-In. Break-In. And now this is probably a shift of another multiplayer game, that being Fair Games, which was made by Haven Studios. So yeah, Fair Games was a game made by PlayStation. They had already changed the name once. Originally, I want to say it was called Fair Games with a $sign. and then at some point they changed the name to just Fair Game and removed the $, and now it looks like they're changing the name again to Break In, which I do think is also a pretty generic name. But they're, you know, PlayStation did their big pivot to multiplayer, and they're gonna try to recoup whatever profits they can. I think this game is also sadly doomed for failure. But yeah, this is another PvP extraction shooter that nobody really asked for, and I don't know if anybody actually really wants, but it's coming. It is coming. So, I guess we'll see. And then the final one is we got news from Bungie this week that Destiny 3 is not in development. So no, we're not getting any Destiny 3 updates. It looks like Bungie is going to be undergoing layoffs. We don't know how many layoffs, you know, we don't have like an exact number or anything. We just know they're going to be undergoing some form of layoffs because Marathon did not do as well as they wanted. I still think it did okay compared to stuff like Concord and that summer Highguard. Highguard was the other one. Like, it still did okay in comparison because, you know, you have Bungie backing it. But I really do worry, you know, Bungie were originally part of Microsoft, then they gained their independence, then they went to Activision, then they gained their independence from Activision, and then they got bought up by PlayStation, and now they're probably going to get closed down. I hate to say it, it really fucking sucks, but it looks like Bungie is not in a good place. Looks like, I don't want to say it's going to be immediate, you know, we've still got a while, they're going to try to turn Marathon around, but I'm not exactly hopeful for Bungie, which sucks, because a long time ago, they were a really good studio. And now it's just kind of sad, which sucks because they did great things, and you know they employ a bunch of people who are now probably out of a job. Like, we don't know how big these layoffs are going to be, but we're definitely having some sort of layoffs. I do think that at this PlayStation Showcase we could see something of Marathon. I do think there is a very good chance that Marathon and their next big update, which I know is, I can't remember if it's doing a PvP or a PvE thing. I know there was some sort of, like, leak recently about the next Marathon update. I do think we're going to see something. I just don't know what. But yeah, I predict we're going to get something from Marathon. So those are my 3 simple, safe predictions. Anything else we'll save for next week. At least, as I'm currently thinking about it, I think it makes sense to save all this stuff for next week. And we'll talk about that all then. As well as, you know, anything else I think of. Because there's got to be more, right? There's got to be more. But it does look like the dream of Bloodborne on PC is kind of squashed again. So yeah, and then the final thing with this PlayStation Showcase is they're actually going to do screenings of it at the Alamo Drafthouse. So if like me, you live nearby an Alamo Drafthouse, you can go to a screening of the showcase, because everyone's doing screenings at theaters nowadays. You know, we've got the Amazing Digital Circus thing, which I think is also next week. I think it's like June 4th or 5th, so that's also coming up. Markiplier's movie, you know, everything's coming up, you know, in the next few weeks. But yeah, PlayStation's going to be streaming this or showing this at theaters, you know, where everyone can react to it. I think it's fine, you know, it does give me hope that this is going to be a bigger showcase. However, somebody did remind me that Sony owns Alamo Drafthouse. I actually completely forgot about that. I completely forgot that Sony bought Alamo Drafthouse a few years ago. Which maybe this is less an indicator that this is going to be a big showcase, and is instead just showing that, like, hey, yeah, this is going to be the new norm. That from here on out, every PlayStation Showcase is going to be shown at the Alamo Draft House as well. Because they already own the Draft House, they can set aside a screen to show a PlayStation Direct for, you know, once every few months. So I would not be surprised if this becomes the new norm. So I just wanted to bring that up, because yeah, I had no idea until somebody else pointed it out. But no, I think that's cool. I'm obviously not going, you know, we'll be here on stream reacting to it, like we always do. But yeah. So that's our positive PlayStation story. Our negative PlayStation story is, hey, guess what? Sony is raising its prices again. Yep, everything's going great. And Sony, despite, you know, just having raised the prices of their consoles due to economic factors, now they're going to be raising the price of PS Plus. Oh, don't you love that? Aren't you happy that PlayStation Plus is going up in price? Oh, won't somebody think of the billionaires? This is fucking bullshit. You know, these corporations, man, they just keep... I understand. Shit's going on in the world. Data centers are getting more expensive. PC players do not play for servers. People who play on PC do not pay for servers. And they get the same quality experience as everybody else. Sure, you get a few free games through PlayStation, and sometimes they are some good games. But no, this did not need to happen, especially after you just raised the price of your console. No, there's no way you're that desperate. This is just a little, you know, a little inconvenience, and now you're pushing off that greed to the consumers. Like, fuck right off. It's only a $1 price range. And it's only affecting the 1 and 3 month subscriptions. So if you're like me and you do a 12-month subscription to PlayStation Plus, you don't have to worry about that. But if you're getting a $1, if you do the 1 month subscription, it goes from $1, 1 month is $10 to 1 month is $11. So it's literally a $1 price increase. And for 3 months, it went from $25 to $28. So it's a $3 price increase, basically $1 a month. This also only affects new subscribers. So let's say for some bizarre reason you're subscribed to PS Plus at the monthly rate, but you automatically renew every month. This will not affect you. You know, they kind of did the Dropout thing where, you know, Dropout raised their price, but they only did it to new subscribers and not existing ones. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing here. They're raising the price for only new subscribers, and existing subscribers get to keep the old price for now. For now. That'll obviously probably change at some point in the future. But overall, this does suck. Just, again, companies are greedy. They keep raising their prices. And, you know, the quality of the product keeps getting worse and worse. And we live in hell. We live in fucking hell. And there's nothing we can do about it. Or, you know, at least the stuff we are going to be doing about it takes years. And, you know, and for the moment, that sucks. Like, people are fighting the good fight, but change is not made overnight. And that really fucking sucks. I saw someone make a post today that getting a full tank of gas in California, it is cheaper to buy a flat screen TV now. They paid like, what was it? Like, it was like $70 something for gas. Meanwhile, they went to Walmart and found like a 24-inch TV for like $70 for cheaper. Which is not like a huge difference. You know, it's not like the biggest TV in the world. But still. I mean, literally, a Switch 2 game is cheaper than that tank of gas. Not full tank. I don't know. I'm paying the big bucks as well. So, like, I'm not as bad here as in California, but it's still pretty fucking bad. So yeah, all this stuff sucks, but it's the hellscape we live in. Alright, let's talk about this Nintendo thing real quick. So, Nintendo, all of a sudden, out of the blue, on like Tuesday this week, announced they're making a new game. Pictonico. This is a new mobile game. So, I had thought Nintendo was done with mobile games. You know, they killed off the Animal Crossing one. As far as I know, they stopped updating the Mario Kart one. Literally, the only Nintendo mobile game that still gets updates, as far as I'm aware, is Fire Emblem. And, well, the Pokemon ones, but the Pokemon ones don't really count. The Fire Emblem one still gets updates because it makes a lot of fucking money. That's it. If it wasn't for the fact that it made so much money, that one would also be dead. But no, Nintendo is making a new mobile game. And it's a WarioWare game. It doesn't have Wario. It's basically like a, hey, what if we took all the Wario out of WarioWare? But yeah, they're making a new WarioWare game. The whole premise is it's based around photos. So you can take photos of your friends, and then it puts them in the game, the little micro games, you know, in the style of WarioWare. So it's got all these little cute games, you know, or dumb. I mean, they're cute, but they're dumb. It's WarioWare. You know exactly what to expect from WarioWare. They're doing exactly that. It's like unwrap the mummy, give the child the lollipop, you know, make the silly face. But it's all with pictures of your friends. It's whatever. This is not a freemium game. This is a paid game. You can download a free like demo that allows you to test out like a few of the mini games. But if you want to play the whole game, you have to pay money for it. So it's going to come in multiple volumes. So the first volume costs $6, and the second volume costs $8. We do not know how many mini games are in each volume. We know between the two volumes, there are at least 80 mini games. So I guess however much, you know, mini games are worth, presumably Pack Volume 2 will have more. But it's all based on, you know, your consumer price. The game comes out on the 28th, so it comes out in 4 days. So we don't exactly have the price yet. But yeah, this is just fucking weird. I don't know why this exists. I really thought Nintendo was done making mobile games. That, you know, they were desperate during the Wii U era, so they started making mobile games like Mario Run, which I do have to play at some point just for the purpose of actually playing it. I've thought about doing it here on stream, just because we can. And oh, Mario Run also occasionally gets updates as well. They put in like little like statues to tie in with like the movies and whatnot. For some fucking reason. But I really just thought Nintendo was done with mobile games. That, you know, they tried out a few gacha games. Outside of Fire Emblem, none of them were really that successful. You know, the Mario one had better business practices than most others do. But now, it really felt like the mobile game era of Nintendo was over. Mainly because the Switch is the second best-selling console of all time. And they're really trying to make it number one. So it really felt like we were done with these Nintendo mobile games. But no, we're getting a new one. No, I will not be checking it out. I do not care. Literally, if this had been like if they had made a new console WarioWare game, where it was like, hey, here's this cheap eShop game, it's $20, it connects to your phone, and it allows you to play these micro games with like pictures from your phone. I'd be like, okay, that's kind of cute. You know, maybe you can use your Mii if you don't want to connect it to your phone. That would have been like, oh, it's this cute little experiment. But the fact that it's entirely disconnected from WarioWare, that it's this weird-ass mobile game, I just don't care about it. I just don't. This does nothing for me. It's weird that it exists. It's weird that Nintendo's still doing mobile games. But, like, what fucking else are we gonna do? So yeah, that's Pictonico. Yeah, I don't have anything positive to say on it. Because guess what? It's a weird fucking Nintendo decision. And Nintendo, you know, we're a week away. Okay, maybe 2 weeks away. from the Switch 2's 1-year anniversary. And we'll definitely be talking about that then. But yeah, so far, I'm not impressed. So far, this whole mobile game thing, yeah, does not impress me. That's what I meant to say. We'll talk about the Switch 2. I'm a lot more positive on the Switch 2. But before we do any of that, I need to pee. So fucking bad. So I'm gonna go pee real quick, and then we will come back, and we'll continue on through the Soda Jungle, which is one of the only levels I actually know the name of. So we'll head up there, and we'll do all that here in a minute. Yeah, we'll start back up here. Okay, we did do the... I forgot if we did the airship fight or not. Good, we did. Alright, give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. So, yeah. What were we talking about? I'll be honest, I don't really remember. Okay, so where we left off. Oh, Byte-Sized news. So I got two small stories today. Nothing big, nothing major, but just things I want to talk about. Specifically, last week we talked about GTA. And there was these rumors that, you know, it looked like GTA 6 was going to be going up for pre-order this week. Because I and many others believe that we were going to get something from GTA this month. And we were either pre-orders, which told us that yes, this is happening. The game is coming out this year. Or it was getting delayed again, which I think was also an equal possibility that I think made a lot of sense. That, you know, if it's getting delayed until May or February or whatever the fuck, we would have found out this month. And so when these Best Buy things came out, which were real, by the way, everything, as far as I'm aware, all those Best Buy emails that people were getting, you know, that was like, hey, the game's going to be going up for pre-order, they were real. It was probably a thing where, like, somebody had scheduled it to happen, and then for any number of reasons it didn't happen. You know, maybe Rockstar changed their mind, maybe this was the original plan, but then they had a different one. You know, for any number of reasons, that didn't happen. At least that's the most likely case. But yeah, nothing did happen, which does kind of suck. It does still kind of put us in this limbo of like, oh, because here's the thing. It's not just Rockstar that's about this GTA 6 thing. Like, that would be one thing. If it was just like, oh, you know, a company, whether or not their game's getting delayed again. No, why this really matters is because the rest of the gaming industry is also affected by this. Because no other game can release the same week as GTA 6. No game can release the week before GTA 6. And no game can release for like the 2 weeks after GTA 6. Because who the fuck wants to compete with GTA 6? So the entire gaming industry is kind of being held up by this one thing. You know, in the same way that like Mina the Hollower did that as well. Or, not Mina the Hollower. Fucking Silk Song. Mina the Hollower comes out this week. And we'll talk about it later. Fuck. In the same way that Silk Song, right? There were all these other indie games that were coming out, you know, that had been scheduled for like months to come out the same week as Silk Song. And then when Silk Song announced their release date like 2 weeks before, a bunch of other things had to be delayed because of that. So that sucked. And yeah, it looks, and if GTA doesn't get delayed, then like they're kind of they're kind of fucking over a lot of other places and a lot of other games. Literally, the only one who doesn't care about this is Nintendo. Like Microsoft cares because they've got Fable. And Fable, you know, might have been that November release date. And right now, they're probably pushed back till December because of that. But they might push over into next year. If not, then, hey, if GTA is getting delayed, you might as well just do it in November, assuming they're ready. I don't know, it's a possibility. Now, with all that being said about Microsoft, though, it is interesting that basically when all this was going down, you know, and we were waiting to get a release date and then nothing happened, Microsoft, Xbox, put out a tweet saying that, hey, guess what? You know, GTA 6 still releasing November 19th, and you can wishlist it on Xbox today. That's not pre-order, that's just wishlist. Does that mean anything? Probably not. I don't think that means anything in the grand scheme of things. It may be potentially signals that Xbox is the one who got the GTA marketing contract, potentially. But outside of that, I don't actually think it means anything. But it was just like clearly the timing of the tweet, you know, Xbox read the room, and while they had nothing to say about it, they still said something. Just kind of, you know, reading the room, which makes sense. I don't know. I have been actually considering playing GTA 5 again. Because I played GTA 5 when it came out. I never beat the story mode. You know, I mostly just kind of fucked around in the game. And then I played online a little bit. There's a part of me that kind of wants to go back. You know, that same part of me that always wants to go back to Skyrim and give it another go. Maybe actually, you know, play the story for once. Because I don't know anybody who has ever beaten the story of Skyrim who wasn't like a speedrunner or a challenge runner. You know, as far as I know, the only person who has ever beaten GTA or Skyrim story is like Mitten Squad and people like that. I don't know. It was something I was thinking about this week. So yeah, so that's our first thing. Our second bite-sized news is Minecraft Mojang announced they're going to be doing a Minecraft Live on the 30th. Normally, Mojang only does 2 Minecraft Lives. One in the spring and one in the fall. You know, usually around like September-ish. And because we had already had one earlier this year, and I want to say our previous Minecraft Live was in like February. But this week, they announced, hey, or maybe it was last week, but they announced, hey, you know, with TwitchCon coming up, we're going to be doing another Minecraft Live before TwitchCon to talk about the next update and everything. Which doesn't surprise me. I'll be honest, I actually don't mind 3 Minecraft Lives a year. One in the fall, one in the summer, and one in the spring. I do think that makes a lot of sense. Especially with, you know, everything going on in the gaming industry and how Minecraft has, like, switched themselves over from, you know, traditional updates to game drops now. This does make sense. I don't think it's really, like, that big of a deal at the end of the day. I don't know. I don't want to say I'm not excited, because, you know, you can have fun with a new Minecraft update. A lot of people are doing some really cool stuff with the Sulfur Cube. It's just, who really cares? I mean, I saw this thing, people talking about, like, Minecraft is the only game that gets free updates that the fans just hate. And yeah, you know what, that is fair. And it did kind of get me thinking, like, if, like, let's say you paid money and you were, like, let's say Mojang did, like, a, hey, you know, we're gonna do, like, a payment thing and we're gonna do big updates again. We're gonna call it Minecraft 2. Would people pay money for that? So that way, instead of having these, like, small little game drops, we get, like, a major update. Would people pay money for that? Because that's the ultimate problem, is Minecraft is not a live service game. But it very much is treated like one, and was basically retroactively fitted to be a live service game. So, like, is it, you know, if Mojang turned it into a live service, I mean, they kind of already have. I don't know, but the problem, you know, Todd Howard once said about Skyrim, that the problem with Skyrim was that, you know, people only bought it once. That they made money off of that initial purchase, and that was it. And that's why they re-released Skyrim on so many systems, is because, you know, they're trying to get that third purchase. This was back when, you know, live services weren't the most scummy things in the world, and just a little bit scummy. Whereas now, you know, they're fucking the worst thing ever. But no, what do I expect from Minecraft Live? So there was this whole thing where there was this leak of a new enemy called the Blub, but it looks like the Blub is going to be a Minecraft Dungeons enemy. Or ally, or something. I don't know, it's this little, like, rabbit thing, the Blub. I really don't expect much from the Blub. I don't think it's going to be added into the main game. I mean, it could be stuff like the Allay. The Allay was originally created for Minecraft, whatever the fuck that game was called. And then they also decide to add it to the main game. Well, they put it in the mob vote for a chance. So, I mean, anything is possible, or can be possible. But I would not be surprised if this new Minecraft update is a new mob of some sort. Maybe not the Blub, maybe something else. Some sort of new mob, and then a new biome. I feel like that's what a majority of game drops are nowadays. Is like, hey, here's the new mob. Here's the new biome. And then we call it a day. I don't want to say every game drop is that, but it really does feel like every game drop has basically just evolved to, here's the new mob, here's a new biome, yay. And I'm just kind of, you know, I'm not over it, but I don't know what else I'd want. You know, we want the end update, that's not going to happen. I would love to see what's beyond that that ancient city portal, but I don't think we're gonna see that anytime soon. I don't know, I saw this theory that Mojang has actually been, like, rebuilding the game's code to make the game more stable, to make it run better, so that when they do an end update or an ancient city dimension, the game will be in a much better state that will allow them to do bigger things. Which I would love. In theory, I love the idea that, no, because they've switched over to Vulkan, they've been messing around with the lighting engine a lot. I, in theory, would love for that to be true. That, you know, over the past few years of game drops, Mojang has been basically just rebuilding the code. Because the problem with Minecraft is it's on Java. Like, we call... Oh, fuck, I hate this level. We call Bedrock Bug Rock, which is true. But also, Java is just a shit optimized game. Like, you have... It's kind of like Fallout New Vegas. You have to install a bunch of mods just to get that game into a playable state, which should not be the case. That should, like, not be a thing in the industry. That should not be, like, the gold standard for Minecraft. At least I wouldn't want it to be. So yeah, I think if they're slowly rebuilding Bedrock, that's a good thing. It's just a question of, will they fucking do anything with it? And I don't know. Ah, shit. The other thing I do expect to see at Minecraft Live is Minecraft Dungeons. I don't think we have a release date. I don't think we have a release year. But I would not be surprised if we see our first glimpse at Minecraft Dungeons 2. I don't know, I did buy Minecraft Dungeons, the first one. It was on sale for like $5. Now, it might have been $8 with all like the DLCs and whatnot, but I did buy it. So at some point I'll get around to playing that and checking it out. But no, I would not be surprised if we see Minecraft Dungeons 2. And then the final thing I think we could see is our first look at the Minecraft movie 2. Specifically, I think we could see the scene of Steve in his lava chicken truck. So the Minecraft movie 2 is currently filming, and there's been a few set leaks, and one of them is Steve having a lava chicken truck. Because they're leaning into the memes. Like, the first movie had a bunch of, you know, unintentional ironic memes. The second movie is going to try to, you know, forcibly recreate that irony. And they're probably going to fail to an epic proportion. And not in like a fun epic and a, oh god, kill me epic. You know, in the millennial cringe humor sort of epic that, you know, we're used to Hollywood executives getting us. You know, the same thing that gets us screaming goats in all these movies. We're probably going to get that. But I think we get our first look at the Minecraft movie 2 with Steve's lava chicken truck. And then I would not be surprised if we find out who's playing Alex. I want to say it's one of the Kristens. It's either Kristen Wiig or Kristen, whatever her name is. Kristen Stewart? Yeah, it's either going to be Kristen Wiig or not Kristen Stewart. No, Kristen Stewart's the wrong one. I mean, should be interesting for sure. Lesbian Steve, I'd be down for that. Or Lesbian Alex. Who am I? Kristen... Who the fuck am... Kristen Wiig... Kate McKinnon is another one I could see being. To match off Jack Black, I could see Kate McKinnon being one. So yeah, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and then the other one I could see is Kirsten Dunst. It's gonna be like one of those three. It might have already been confirmed to be one of those three. I do not remember. But that would not surprise me at all. It's gonna be one of them is gonna be Alex. I don't know. Either the Minecraft movie was dumb. It was bad. The second one's gonna be dumb and bad. But hey, maybe they'll fight the Ender Dragon. So that's my bite-sized news. Went on for longer than I expected, but what you gonna do? Alright, let's talk about WIBE. So what have I been doing? I got 2 games. I've been playing an indie game, and I've been playing a AAA game, that being Batman, Lego Batman, so we'll talk about that. And then I did see the Mandalorian and Grogu, so we'll talk about that, give my very milquetoast response for a very milquetoast movie. And then we've got The Parade of Horribles, which I did finish that book. I read, 60-something chapters? Closer to 70, honestly. I read closer to 70 chapters in about a week. And fuck do I have a lot to say. Mainly on the last, 10 chapters. You know, everything before that we'll kind of briefly talk about. It's those last, 10 chapters that mean the world. So we'll do all that. And then Game Changer. Game Changer had its Season 8 premiere. We'll talk about that. And then we'll end off with Marble League. Hopefully that'll be enough time to cover, this game and everything else. Because my goal is also to beat this game before the end of stream. And fucking, we'll see. We shall see. Alright, let's talk about Librarian. So, Librarian, Tidy Up the Arcane Library, is a game you've potentially seen on YouTube and Twitch. It's a new cozy game, all about you as the player. You're in this arcane library. So it's a library with magic books, and you yourself are like a wizard, or I think it's wizard is the one who gets their magic from books. It's something like that. And you're here in the arcane library. Do I want to use the skip? Yeah, let's go take a look. So you're in the arcane library, and some fairies got in, and they pulled all the books off of the shelves, and just flung them everywhere. So all the books in the library have been pulled off the shelves, and it's your job to go in and tidy it all up. Clean up the arcane library, fix all the books, get them all back into their rightful places, and that's it. That's it. It can be a very tedious, very long, kind of annoying game. Because, you have this just mountain of books, and it's like, God, where do I even fucking start? So this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I find it enjoyable. I played it, there's 2 modes. There's like a normal mode and a cozy mode. I did play it on the cozy mode where, you don't have to worry about night and day, and I'm sure there's other things that the cozy mode changes. But that's kind of the experience I wanted from this game. I wanted a cozy mode, and to that end, I do feel like this game has delivered. Because so I started off, and it's like, okay, well, where do you even start? You know, you've got all these bookshelves. You've got books on magic, you know, just general magic, curses, illusions, alchemy, you know, all the stuff you'd expect from magic on the first floor. Because there's also 2 floors to the library. And then on the second floor, you've got books about, you know, art, math, politics, philosophy. They all have something to do with magic, obviously. But they're more built around that idea of like, hey, you know, what other kind of thing... There's like the magic books that you'd expect, and then the non-magic books you wouldn't. And that's what the game's just built around. So how I started was I noticed there's a lot of these books that are like Tome of Magic. So it's like Tome of Fire Magic, Tome of Ice Magic, Tome of Water Magic, Tome of Space Magic, Destruction Magic, all this stuff. And that's where I started. I was like, okay, these tomes are pretty easy to notice. They all have the same designs. There's a lot of them, like literally the entire back shelf, which is like 5 rows, is all built around these tomes. So I was like, that's where I start, where I'm going to start with these tomes. And yeah, I was able to get all of them. Some of the later ones where it's like the smaller collections where there's only like 3 or 4 in a set definitely takes a while. But I was eventually able to get all the tomes. And then from there, you start to notice a few things. Specifically, you notice that all the black books with red text are all curse books. You know, I say curse, there's like 1 or 2 mysteries, but for the most part, all the black books with red text are curse books. And I was like, okay, that's a great place to start. I'll start there by getting those. I do that, and then it's like, okay, all the white books are either healing magic or holy magic. So I'll pick up all of those, because those are pretty easy to find. Along the way, I figured out, oh wait, there's actually a third category. A lot of the white books are also philosophy. So I get all the philosophy books. And then it's like, okay, I've got those. I tried getting all the romance books at one point, because a lot of the romance books say romance book on them. And so I started going for some of those, and some of them, like, romance books have, like, hearts, and they use a lot of blues and purples. They're pretty distinct. So I got a bunch of those. Then I did art books, because there's certain sets of art books that have very distinct, very vibrant colors. Those were easy to find. The other art books, not so much. Like, you know, some collections have a very distinct design, and then others, like, don't. And then from there, I did the math books, and the math books were also, you know, they all had, like, these, like, spiral graphs on them, or these fractals. The math books were also pretty easy to find. There's a few that, you know, are less obvious. And that's kind of where I am right now. I'm a few hours in. I've done most of that. I'm not saying I'm doing most of it by hand, because one of the things about this game is because it's magic, you do unlock spells. So there are technically 5 spells. I really only use 4 of them. I actually really only use like 3. So there's a spell that just lets you sort all the books in your hand. I have at most used that spell like twice. It's not really that useful. I get why it could be useful, but I've never really had point to use it. There's one where when you're holding a book, it lets you know what shelf that book goes to. So if you just pick up something random on the floor, it'll be like, oh yeah, this goes into cooking magic. You know, and it'll highlight in the world where that book is. It's a, you know, it has its uses. I haven't really used it that much, but I could see where it can be useful. The other version of it, though, is much more useful, and that is when I have a book in my hand, it'll highlight every other book from the same set. So let's say I have, you know, Introduction to Magic Art. It'll then, in the world, highlight every other book of magic art. The more you upgrade the spell, the longer it lasts. So originally it only lasts like 10, I'm going to say 10 seconds. It's probably less time than that. But then as you keep upgrading it, it then lasts for like 20 and then 30 seconds. So it's giving you more time to, you know, find stuff. That's a useful spell. Not the most useful, but it's useful. Next, there's an auto sorting or an auto shelving spell. So you take the book and it'll automatically put it on the shelf for you, as long as, you know, you're standing in front of the right shelf. That one is super useful, especially when you've just gotten like a cavalcade of like a bunch of different math books. That is so nice to have, and it just instantly places them all, especially on some of like the bigger, like the romance shelf, where there's just, it's a very tall shelf and there's a lot of different things going on. That's just really nice to have. And then the final spell, which is the most useful spell by like a landslide, is the auto gather spell. So let's say you pick up, I don't know, Whispers of the Heart, a romance book. It will then, from the world, gather other copies of that book. And the higher you've upgraded it, the more copies it'll get. So at level 1, you know, let's say you have Whisper of the Heart like volume 3, it'll then gather Whisper of the Heart volume 6. Or whatever. And then you upgrade it, and all of a sudden now it'll gather Whispers of the Heart volume 6 and volume 7. It's completely random which ones it gathers. And of course, that is the most useful one, so that was the one I went into quickly upgrading, and now I've got it at the max level, where as long as you can find one of a book, it'll gather every other book in that set. It'll gather the other 9, if there are 9. Because most sets have 9 books, but there are smaller sets that have 3, there are smaller sets that have 5, but on average, the set is 10 books. Because of course, you can't just put the 10 books in any, they have to be ordered properly as well. That's the other important part. So I was able to do all that, and now that I've got that spell maxed, yeah, it's pretty nice. There are other things. It looks like there are magical artifacts that you can get in the game, but I have not gotten any. There are like these 4 chests in the library that I have yet to unlock. I think so far I have placed down like 1,000 books. There are over 3,000 in the library though, so I've at most done like a third of them. But you know, I'm working on it. It takes some time to get all these books. There are a lot of books after all. Shit. But yeah, I'm working on it. Overall, yes, it is slow. It can, especially starting off, it's like, God, where do I even start? But I do find it addictive. I don't know if I'll ever, once I beat it, I don't know if I'll ever replay it again. But at least for my initial playthrough, yeah, I'm having a good time. It's very cozy. It doesn't require much brain power, especially when you're certain by like colors. Because spoiler alert, I've read a lot of this book while listening to Parade of Horribles. I've played this game. And so just being able to like focus on Parade of Horribles while I'm looking for all the white books is pretty easy to find. But of course, the second you have to start actually like reading book titles and whatnot, it you know, takes a little bit more brain power, and it does, especially probably near the end, it'll start to lose you. But overall, no, I've been having a good time. I've been having a good time. I don't know if I'd recommend it. It's definitely an acquired taste. I'll say that much, you know, you sorting out a library. If that is not something you are into, this will not become something you get into. But for me, it works. I'm having a good time. And I definitely am going to sort out those other 2,000 books. Because on one hand, it's like, yeah, I've made a dent in the library, but also it feels like I've made no progress at all. Like, you look at, like, some of the because there are 2 tables that just have, like, piles of books on them, and it's like, God, I've barely touched these tables. There's still so much to do. I'm so fucked. The other game I've been playing is Lego Batman. So the new Lego Batman game came out this week. I was very excited for it. You know, I love me a good Lego Batman. Back in the day, I had the ones on Wii, and those were a lot of fun. But I also do like Lego games. I admittedly have not played a Lego game probably since the Wii. I don't think I ever... Maybe I played some like Xbox 360 ones. But it's definitely been a long time. But I was excited for a new Lego Batman. It seemed like they were kind of doing everything right, you know. They were taking influence from the Arkham games. Sure, they're doing the story of the movies, but they're making little changes to kind of combine everything. And yeah, it just looked good. It looked fun. And so far, I've been having a good time. I'm only, I only just picked it up yesterday. I have not played it at all today. You know, we've been doing this instead and, work and all that. So I have not put too much time into it. But I did start it. I did have a good time with it. And I'm definitely going to keep playing it eventually. I'll eventually get back to it. But yeah, so it starts off, and you start off as, little Bruce Wayne, as, you're going off to the movie theaters to see the Gray Ghost. I love the Gray Ghost. Listen, I understand that Batman, his parents died the night he saw Zorro. And that's a very thematic thing, and it makes a lot of sense. But I do also like the reference to the Gray Ghost. I love that Thomas Wayne makes the joke that, they had Gray Ghosts when I was a kid. Like, they do that whole thing. From there, they go to the movies, they go to Crime Alley, and they get shot by Jack Napier? So they don't do Joe Chill, they do Jack Napier. Because they're doing the Tim Burton movie. Because that's the thing, this is combining all the movies into one. So we get Jack Napier, Falcone had something to do with it. From there, they do Batman Begins. Bruce goes to confront Falcone, and instead gets turned away. From there, he meets Ra's al Ghul. They go out to, I think it's Nepal, where he has to go get this blue flower. One of the changes they do make is Talia al Ghul shows up. And now Bruce and Talia are working together and learning together under Ra's al Ghul. You just don't know that Talia is Raz's daughter. Like, they save that for, like, the end of the chapter. Because it is it is mission and chapter based. So the whole reason why Talia is there, and then in the next part, it's all about Commissioner Gordon. It's Batman teaming up with Gordon, like in the Batman movie. The whole reason they do all that is because this is a multiplayer game. The classic Lego Star Wars games you could play with 2 people, and so this one you could play with 2 people, but because there isn't a Robin yet, and they're definitely going to retcon Robin into some of this stuff, because the movies are allergic to using Robin, except for Schumacher. He may not have made a good movie, but I'll give credit to Schumacher for actually being willing to do Robin. But no, so instead, when they're training at the League of Shadows, it's Talia with him. I also like that Bruce calls the League of Shadows a metal band, only because I know in that DC Superhero Girls show, they actually did make the League of Shadows, like their front is a metal band, and so when they did that, I was like, that's funny, that's a good thing. But yeah, eventually, he goes, he trains, he finds out Ra's al Ghul wants to destroy Gotham, turns against him, Talia's kind of split, it looks like she died, she obviously didn't die. From there, so that's our Batman Begins part. From there, they head back to Gotham, and now we're doing the Batman, the most recent Batman movie. So the costume looks like the Batman. The Batmobile you start the game with is the Batman's Batmobile. You do go underneath Wayne Mansion, and that's also Batman Begins. I can't remember if there's a dock scene in the Batman, at least at the beginning. I know there's a dock scene in Batman Begins. And so, they're definitely melding some of these movies together, but in a way that works. Commissioner Gordon is the Batman's Commissioner Gordon. I do not know if his partner is from the Batman or Batman Begins, Flask. I legitimately do not remember if Flask was the Batman or Batman Begins. Harvey Bullock shows up at one point, though, and he sets off the Riddler thing. Because they're not doing the Riddler from the movies. They're doing the Riddler from the Arkham games. Which I think is fine. Eventually, you get to the Iceberg Lounge, which is the Batman. You know, Selena Kyle's there. You're chasing after the Penguin. You do the whole car wreck scene with the Penguin, where he flips the Penguin's car, and then you walk towards him in the fire, and it looks great. And then you confront Falcone. Falcone gets arrested, does not get assassinated. And that's kind of where I ended off. You know, I played for like an hour or two. From there, you go back to the Batcave, and yeah, that's kind of where I stopped. But so far, you know, it's fun. It plays like the Arkham... At least, it plays like my memory of the Arkham games. You're doing a lot of punches, you're stunning enemies, and when you stun enemies, you can lay combos on them. After doing, you know, enough hits, you unlock a finisher move, which allows you to quickly take care of one enemy. It plays how I remember the Arkham games to play. So if you've really wanted to play an Arkham game, and, you know, it's been a while... Hey, guess what? This is your new Arkham game. I don't know if it's as good as the other Arkham games. So far, it feels pretty good, like, gameplay-wise. And yeah, story-wise, they're just doing the movies, you know. There's little twists and turns on things. It's obviously, you know, still a Lego game. They're trying to keep things lighthearted and funny. I saw someone make the joke of, why didn't Bruce just build his parents back together? Because there are these occasional segments where you have to do, like, your master building thing. And yeah, overall, it's just a fun game. I'm having a good time. I'm not playing it on Switch 2. I am playing it on PlayStation, because I actually got the PlayStation version for cheaper. But yeah, so far, I'm having a good time. I think they're setting up the whole Jack Napier thing from the Tim Burton Batman, but they're making him into the Red Hood, which, as far as I know, the Tim Burton Batman didn't do the Red Hood. It has been so long since I've seen the Tim Burton Batman. Because you know how last year we rewatched all the Superman movies in the lead up to the new one? I've kind of been thinking I kind of want to rewatch all the Batmans. Even though we did Batman Begins last year and all the others, because they were all shown in theaters. I do kind of want to do the Tim Burtons and the Schumachers, but then I also want to do the Star Wars again, because it's been a long time since I've Star Warsed, as we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, so far I'm having a good time with Lego Batman. I still have to put a lot more time into it before I can make like a good, proper judgment, but at the moment, it's fun. At the moment, I would recommend it, especially if you are a Batman fan and you like the Arkham games. You're probably going to have a good time. Which, yeah, at that point, that's worth it. It's worth it to me, anyways. Yeah, this is basically the 5th Arkham game. Kind of, I mean... Or I count Origins. Yeah, I would say this is 5. It's been so long. That's good. Whatever. So yeah, that's Batman. I'll keep playing. I'll probably, you know, after this, I'll play some more of it. But that's later. Alright, let's talk about The Mandalorian and Grogu. So The Mandalorian and Grogu is our first Star Wars movie in, what, 7 years? I was telling somebody else about this, and I thought it was 9. It legitimately feels so long since the last Star Wars movie. And so I was curious, I was like, have we ever talked about a Star Wars movie on this show? Because while this show has been around for 8 years, I genuinely don't know if we've ever talked about a Star Wars movie. I looked it up, because, you know, I keep notes for all this shit. Episode 24, Season 1, I think it was season 1. It might have been season 2, but I'm pretty sure season 1, episode 24, we talked about The Rise of Skywalker. And that's it. That is legitimately the last time I have talked about Star Wars. Not because I'm not a Star Wars fan. I actually used to be a very big Star Wars fan. I loved, I was a kid when the prequels were coming out. I don't remember seeing Phantom Menace in theaters, but I definitely remember seeing the other two in theaters. I was a big Star Wars fan. I remember when Disney bought Star Wars, and it was like, oh my god, we're gonna get new Star Wars. I was so excited. And then we got The Force Awakens, and The Force Awakens was fine. And then we got The Last Jedi, and it was super divisive, but I personally really liked it. Last Jedi is like top 3 Star Wars movies for me. And then we got Rise of Skywalker, which killed my love of Star Wars. I have not seen or thought about Star Wars since The Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker is not the worst movie I've ever seen. I don't even know if it would break the top 100 worst movies I have ever seen, because I've truly seen some bad movies. But what kills The Rise of Skywalker is that it just killed my love of Star Wars. I don't like Star Wars anymore because The Rise of Skywalker was just so fucking bad. And I have just not wanted to watch or think about Star Wars. I have been told that I would love Andor. That Andor is right up my alley. It's everything I want from a Star Wars. But yet, I just don't care, because Rise of Skywalker was so bad. It's actually kind of surprising I even saw this movie. That, with all my just utter not even disdain, apathy. With all my utter apathy towards Star Wars, it's actually really surprising I went and saw this one. But I did. Because there was a part of me that kind of hoped that if this movie was decent enough, it would make me not like Star Wars again, but would make me want to get into Star Wars, to give it a second chance after so long. Spoiler alert, that's not what happened. I still kind of have this ambivalence towards Star Wars. I do kind of want to give it another chance, but I don't think I'm going to go out of my way to do that, at least at the moment. But yeah, because this is a movie. This for sure is a movie that exists. It's whatever. So, my history, I did see The Mandalorian show when it came out. Back in what? Again, was it 2019, 2018? I watched The Mandalorian. I thought it was fine. I know some people really love The Mandalorian. It talked about everything they wanted it to on Wikipedia. But for me, it was just kind of whatever. This is a movie, sure. Or this is a TV show, sure. It does its job. I wasn't as blown away with it as everybody else was, but I didn't hate it either. And then, yeah, I never watched Season 2, I never watched The Book of Boba Fett, never watched Season 3, never watched Andor, never watched anything else. That one movie was so bad that I just didn't care about Star Wars anymore. But, yeah, I guess you should know, I have no situation for this. Outside of The Mandalorian Season 1, I have no context of anything that happened in Season 2, that they split up and Grogu went with Luke, and then at some point, I guess they reunited together. I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about what happened legitimately, I joke about Season 2, I legitimately have no idea what happened in Season 3. I just know that people didn't like Season 3. And here we are with a movie. Now, this movie is literally just a few episodes stitched together. This is not some special movie story. This is not, back in the day, you used to have you'd have TV shows, and then after 6 seasons, they would get their movie, which was the special event. This is not one of those. This is not some sort of special event movie. This is just 3 to 6 episodes of a TV show stitched together, wearing the trench coat of a movie. And to that end, as a movie, this fails. Because it's not a movie, it's just a TV show. You can clearly see where the episodes end, where the episodes begin, and to that degree, it is kind of disappointing. I was kind of like, oh wow, it looks like the story just wrapped up halfway through the movie. But that's only because that's where the episode would have ended. And in fact, you know, we've still got another 2 to 3 episodes to go. Like, fuck, man. Literally, the entire story is just point A to point B. Character has a quest. They don't learn anything. They don't get any, like, special elixir or anything. They just go to point A to point B, almost die along the way, return with their reward, learn nothing, they don't change, they don't grow. It's super fucking disappointing. Like, I thought for a moment, and just spoilers for a movie that's you kinda can't really spoiler because nothing fucking happens. I thought for a moment that the whole, like, plot of the movie, the character development, was going to be that Mando has to learn that Grogu is going to grow up. That one day Mando will die and Grogu will continue to live for hundreds of years. And he kind of has to learn this lesson that he won't always be around there. No, that is not it gets brought up once or twice, but it's not really a lesson he learns. He still treats Grogu, I would say like a kid, but more like a dog, honestly. He tells Grogu to, like, heal and sit and whatnot multiple times. So yeah, I don't really feel like he learned that lesson at any point. So that was, there is no character development. There is no character growth. I mean, you get a little more from the baby than you do from Mando, but that's only because at one point Mando gets poisoned, and you kind of have to spend some time with Grogu as he's just kind of waiting for him to get better. And we'll talk about that scene in a little bit. But yeah, nothing happens. There is no story. There are no stakes. Like, okay, here's the thing. I believe that not every story has to have the stakes of the world on the line. You know, there's the saying that the problem with superheroes is that at a certain point, every superhero battle becomes a battle for the fate of the world. And when every battle becomes a battle for the fate of the world, it kind of stops meaning anything. Or then it becomes a battle for the fate of the universe. And after a while, you know, you've done that so many times, the universe has been at so much risk that you kind of stop giving a shit. And so Star Wars, it's always been like, oh, you know, whether the heroes or win or lose, it's a battle for the fate of the universe, you know, because the dark side will win and they'll be evil, you know, there'll be space Nazis. So all of the mainline Star Wars movies have always been a battle for the fate of the universe. Rogue One, battle for the fate of the universe. Solo really isn't. Solo's a little bit more personal, but there are elements that are a little bit more fate of the universe-y. This movie is not that. This movie is a much more smaller scale, personal story. Like, sure, on one hand, you know, they're trying to track down former people of the Empire who are trying to, like, restart the Empire. But, like, it's not a fate of the Empire thing. It doesn't help that we know for a fact that the Empire comes back one way or another. Or, you know, I guess whatever the New Republic is called. Like, that kind of doesn't help the stakes of the movie. That ultimately the First Order eventually rises regardless. But that's whatever. Instead, the stakes should be entirely personal. You know, is Mando going to be able to get his, you know, capture this coin guy? Is he going to be able to save Rada? Is he going to be able to protect his son? And no, really none of that matters. Like, yeah, he does everything in the end. But nothing really fucking matters. If there were personal stakes, and people were mad at this movie because of the personal stakes, I would call shenanigans. Because, like, a movie that does have personal stakes is the second Ant-Man. I will endlessly defend the second Ant-Man. Because coming off of Infinity War, they made a smaller movie where the stakes are entirely personal. The fate of the universe isn't on the line. It's entirely about, will Hope be reunited with her mom? That's it. It's very personal, very small-scale stakes, and I think it works really well in that movie. The first Ant-Man is also kind of the same thing. It's entirely personal stakes. The third one's not. The third one's got a fate of the universe thing, and that's kind of why that's one of the myriad of reasons that one sucks. But no, this movie doesn't even really have the personal stakes thing. It's really just got nothing going for it. And that's disappointing, because I want more. I want them to be doing more. And they just aren't. So the basic plot is that Mando, who is working for the New Republic, you know, he's been a bounty hunter hired by Sigourney Weaver. Because, you know, basically, if you're a Star Wars chud, you will love this movie. Because, you know, you just have the cool character, the Boba Fett, doing the Boba Fett thing. You know, it acknowledges your Wikipedia status by showing off a bunch of, you know, Dunjari monsters from the chess game. And, oh, you know, it's all, there's only a single woman in it, and she's only got like 10 lines. Yeah, if you're one of those racist Star Wars chuds who hates The Last Jedi, you better fucking love this movie. Because this shows the racist Star Wars chuds won. And their racism and their sexism and their homophobia has been put all over Star Wars. They fucking won. And guess what? They fucking hate it. You know, it's like Republicans. The Republicans won the presidency. They won the House, the House, the Senate. They won the Supreme Court, and they're still unhappy because being a Republican just fucking sucks. And it's the same thing with these Star Wars chuds. They got everything they wanted, and they're still fucking miserable because being a Star Wars chud is just an inherently miserable existence. So, like, fuck everything. But yeah, basically, Mando is working for Sigourney Weaver. She gets him a new ship, which is, I guess, his old ship that got blown up in the show. I didn't watch the later seasons. But he's got his ship back, and he's working, and the New Republic has made a deal with the Hutts that, hey, they'll tell him where this coin guy is if they go and save Rada, who's being held captive. So that's exactly what Mando goes to do. He goes to find Rada, finds him, but Rada doesn't want to be saved. I've seen some people really hate Rada the Hutt, that the person who plays him gives like a very boring, monotone performance. I kind of disagree. I don't think, yes, it is not as like animated as it could be, but also it very much gives the vibe of like someone who went to jail for a few years on drug charges, is trying to like turn their lives around, spend some time with their kids, doesn't want to pass down their daddy issues to their own kids, and is just kind of suffering because of it. Like, it's hard for them to like restart their lives. And because of that, you know, you tend to be a more chill, sort of down-to-earth dude. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from Rada. And I think the performance was fine. This weird, giant, muscular slug, I think, is fine. I know some people... The CGI, sometimes it's pretty good. Sometimes it's pretty awful. We get the whole... I think it's Dinjarin. It's probably something... It's something like that. It's the chess game. You know, in the first Star Wars, you have this chess game with all these monsters. And they literally just took all of those monsters. And, oh, hey, guess what? They're all real. And now he has to fight them to the death, where he's probably going to die. Mando's there. Grogu's in a bird cage. And I thought that was a fun scene. Again, it's low stakes, but it was fun, you know? Yes, the monster designs are kind of fugly, but it's doing its job. I didn't hate the whole arena scene at all. Yes, it was kind of cliche, but it's Star Wars. Star Wars has cliche in it. It's kind of built on it. But from there, they save Rada. They go, you know, Rada reveals to them that the coin guy they're looking for is actually the guy who runs the arena. So they go and they arrest him. From there, they take coin to Sigourney Weaver. But they don't give Rada to the Hutts, because they know that the Hutts are just going to kill him. So they keep Rada for themselves, and Mando kind of, you know, sends him off on his own. And that's kind of where it feels like the movie should end. Like, it really does feel like right there, the movie, you know, they've defeated the bad guy, they've saved Rada, who's going to go off into, like, space and hiding and whatnot. I really feel like that's where the movie should have ended. But nope, it keeps going. Instead, MBO shows up, who, if you watch the Clone Wars, like I did back in the day, MBO was the bounty hunter. Really cool. And I honestly do like him in this movie. I don't remember if he had... It's been so long since I've seen the Clone Wars. I genuinely do not remember if he had the dog or not. But he's got a dog, and he doesn't do any of his, like, his hat riding stuff like he does in the Clone Wars. But he still, like, he uses it like Captain America's shield. He like, looks down and uses it to, like, block bullets and whatnot. He throws it around a little bit. It's fun. You know, people still like MBO as far as I know. They eventually, you know, MBO, like, the movie basically, like, stops right there, where it's, like, going to the next episode. Mando gets captured. Baby Yoda ends up escaping with a bunch of the little Babu Frites. I know the species isn't called Babu Frit, but I could not give less of a shit what they're actually called. Because again, it's Wikipedia slop. God, look at me. I'm becoming the very thing I hate. From there, eventually you get this cute scene where the Babu Frites and Grogu are trying to save Mando, and I thought that, you know, they're all in this little, like, tiny spaceship. That's cute. Mando, meanwhile, I guess it's a thing with the Hutts. They like having pits with monsters in them. So Mando gets thrown down into a pit after they steal his helmet, you know, for the one scene where Pedro Pascal was actually on set. I say that, but I actually really like that in the credits. Yes, Pedro Pascal gets top billing, but then the body double and the stunt performer get second and third billing. I really like that they're 2 and 3 in the credits. Because, yeah, they are important. This movie would, you know, the body double and the stunt performer are probably in the costume 98% of the time. And Pedro literally only comes in to do the scenes without the helmet. So it makes sense. But yeah, in the pit, he has to fight off these, like, snake water people, and then there's, like, this giant white dragon that, like, bites him and poisons him, but Grogu shows up, saves him, but hey, Mando's been poisoned, so now he's out in the swamp dying. And we get the, because, you know, Grogu doesn't talk, so we get this moment of Grogu just kind of watching over Mando's body. You know, he makes him a little hut. He goes and he steals some fish, gets him some water, stuff like that. And in theory, I like this scene. I like this moment where they're like, no, the movie's going to slow down a little bit. Let us spend some time with Grogu as we, you know, see him trying to, you know, keep Mando alive. In theory, it's kind of like in the recent season of Invincible, you have that whole episode where Mark has had his guts spilled out, and while they're waiting for him to heal, we get to spend some time with Oliver and Nolan. In theory, this scene should be like that, but because it's only with Grogu, and yeah, there's this fish guy who shows up and Deus Ex Machina's the whole thing, but just because of how the scene is structured, it's so fucking slow. It goes on for... It's only like a 10-minute scene, but in a 2-hour movie, those 10 minutes adds up. And the scene feels very slow. And I was so... I went and saw this movie after like a full 12-hour workday. So I was so fucking tired that I started to fall asleep. I did not fall asleep during this scene. There's a frog jump scare that woke me up. But if it wasn't for that frog jump scare, I would have fallen asleep. So that is marks against this movie. That, well, in theory, I like the scene. It's too long. It's too slow. I don't know what else they needed to make the scene work. But it just doesn't. But eventually, because of this fish guy, he gives Baby Yoda, Grogu, the cure. And with that, Grogu's able to save Mando. From there, they're like, no, we have to go back. We've got to save Rada. You know, because the twins, saw Mando's face, he has to kill them. Because, you know, no one can see a Mandalorian's face. Or at least nobody can live to see it. So that's how they get around that. So they go back in. We do actually, the whole them going back into the Hutt's compound, they raid the thing. Early on, when we first see the Hutt's compound, we see these two robots. And I was like, oh, we're going to have to fight those later. Sure enough, we do. And I actually did like that. I think the ending battle scene is pretty decent. You know, he fights Embo again. They save Rada, and then Rada fights his aunt and uncle. And they eventually get thrown down into the pit, but Baby Yoda is able to use the Force to save Rada. And then Sigourney Weaver and the others come in. Jon Favreau is one of them. Because, yeah, Jon Favreau puts himself in this movie and gives himself his cowboy hat. Not John. Dave Filoni? Maybe Dave Filoni puts himself in. Someone puts themselves into this movie where I was like, you work on Star Wars. I recognize your face. I think it was Dave Filoni, actually, not Jon Favreau. I'm kind of surprised Jon Favreau's not in this movie. But, regardless, they come in, they do a bombing run where they blow up the Hutt's place, but then, of course, you know, they get saved at the end, because they jump out of the building. And then, yeah, the movie ends, you know, they go back to the rebellion base, and, Rada decides to join the rebellion. And yeah, that's kind of where the movie ends. And yeah, again, no stakes, nothing really happened. I don't hate this movie. Like I said, I have seen a lot of bad movies in my day. This is not a bad movie. It's also not a good movie. It's just kind of very middle of the road. Yes, this is something that exists. This is a movie I saw. This is not the worst Star Wars movie, but this is also not even like the... this doesn't even make like the top like 6. You know, there are entire trilogies that are better than this. So yeah, overall, I saw it. Yeah, did it make me like Star Wars again? No. Will it make you like Star Wars again, or, you know, for the first time? I don't know, maybe. I saw someone, it was probably the Escape Pod, but somebody pointed out that out of all the Star Wars movies, this is the one that feels the most like a kid's movie. Because, you know, there's that old quote of Star Wars is a movie about space wizards intended for children. And yes, that quote is true no matter how much we hate it. But this one feels the most like a kid's movie. This is a kid's Star Wars movie. And to that end, I don't know, kids will probably enjoy it. You know, people who like seeing the Baby Yoda, you've got your cute Baby Yoda moments. It's a smaller scale thing, you know, it's not a battle for the fate of the galaxy. It looks like it's not going to do that well at the box office. I do think I liked Solo more. I at least feel like Solo had more to say. But fucking whatever. It's a movie, I saw it. Maybe I'll go back and watch some of those old Star Wars movies and try to remember why I liked Star Wars to begin with. Maybe I won't. You know, maybe Star Wars is still just dead for me. I don't know, they got there's gonna be like a Ryan Gosling Star Wars movie next year, which also looks like it's doing the same shit. You know, it's called like Starfighter, and it's about this guy who's a pilot, and now he's taking this like kid under his wing. Like, fuck, man. Why is every Star Wars doing this now? Why is every post-Disney era Star Wars about, like, an old mentor taking a kid under his wing to, like, teach him the Star War? I don't know, maybe that one will be better. I kind of have little faith. So yeah. Okay, let's talk about A Parade of Horribles. So, last we had left off, they were out, they were doing the races. There was this whole thing where the AI was like, oh yeah, on the 11th floor, there's an arena. And the arena will, you know, be led up to by the Parade of Horribles. Don't worry about it, you know, we'll get to it. So I was 30 chapters in last time. I have since finished the book. And so I want to talk about it all, but I'm going to be honest, I'm going to kind of just go through some quick highlights of chapters like 31 through like 87, because it's mostly just the races, the quests they have to do. At the end of the day, it's really nothing major until you get to those last like 10-ish chapters. Those last 10 chapters are fucking crazy. This is not my favorite Dungeon Crawler Carl book, but this is also not my least favorite. And those last 10 chapters do a lot of heavy lifting. But like, fuck, are they worth it? Oh my god, those last 10 chapters. But before, let's talk about all the races and all that bullshit. So there's some full spoilers for the book. I'm just gonna fully spoil everything. If you want to read this book, if you want to read Dungeon Crawler Carl, go do it right now. It is more than worth your time. The audiobook is fantastic. That is the #1 way I recommend experiencing it. Go pick up the first one. It is worth your time. Oh my gosh, it is worth your time. But okay, so Parade of Horribles, you know, they're doing these races, they have to go through, like, Satan's Water Park. They go through this, like, Poison Jungle. They have all these things. So they get this side quest where, so at one point in one of the previous books, they picked up a bunch of strippers. Because, you know, there was this whole club that had the Penis Parade, which was a strip club. And they rescued the strippers, and one of the strippers is named Dong Quixote. And Dong Quixote had a boyfriend named Corcunda. But at some point, Corcunda got split up into two people, Corky and Porky. Corky is in these races as he's being held hostage by the Lady Dominators. Porky, on the other hand, is in the Performers Guild. So they have to go find Porky. And in order to do that, they have to sing a song. And so in the audiobook, they actually got the rights to the song Take On Me. So we get to hear Carl and Donut a little bit sing Take On Me. Now, when this scene, they do this whole setup to them singing the song. Again, they do get the actual rights to the song. Eventually, all this shit will go on Spotify. But in the whole setup to this, I was like, oh, this is going to be like Justice League. In the show Justice League, there's this whole episode where Batman has to, like, give up something special. The one thing he can never take back. And you think, like, oh, it's going to be his secret identity. But no, it's instead the reveal that he's actually a really good singer. So that's how I was expecting this scene to go. Instead, if you've ever seen the regular show episode where they go to karaoke, this is that. They go to karaoke, and then a full-on bar brawl breaks out, and people are punching each other, throwing each other across the room, while Carl and Donut are trying to sing the song, because the DJ was killed, and if they fail the song, they don't get a second chance. So, I think it's chapter 57. It is one of the greatest scenes in these books. It is so fucking good. I had a smile on my face the entire time. I was laughing my ass off. It is worth it just for this one scene. Of course, you know, it's Jeff Hayes. I expect nothing but the best, and he fucking delivers. So that was great. The entire subquest of them reuniting Don Quixote and Corcunda is all really good, because they're able to stitch Corky and Porky back together. Sadly, this is this is a bury your gaze sort of thing, because immediately after saving Don Quixote, he is like poisoned. I want to say he's specifically like cursed, because he had this like enchanted item and it's abandoned him, and so they can't like cure him. And so, you know, Don Quixote is dying, and Corcunda sacrifices himself to save him. And that fucking sucks. It really sucks that this is a bury your gaze thing. But I do like them. I really saw, you know, we get to see the aftermath, specifically with people like Bucket Boy, and how just much this sucks that we're losing them. Because now Matt Dinniman had said that one of the characters in the book was gay, and we would have to, you know, it just hadn't come up in the plot yet. I don't think he was talking about Don Quixote. At least I hope he wasn't. I hope he's talking about someone else, and we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But no, I do think overall the subquest is fine, and the whole reason they have to do the subquest is because it allows them to pick 2 people who get to enter the arena. And that's why, you know, they need to do it, especially because the AI literally tells Carl that if he fails the subquest, all life in the universe might die. Which we still don't entirely know what to extent that is true, but based on things that happen, yeah, I'm not going to be surprised. There's shit going down. So, earlier on in the book, we find out that someone from outside the dungeon was able to get in order to see Ellie. This guy named Linus, who is this pervert. I guess about halfway through the book, you find out Linus is not Linus. He's actually his brother Minus, who is a secret agent sent into the dungeon to kill either Amani or Louis and destabilize the whole thing. Because, you know, they can't kill Carl or Donut because of, you know, everything going on, so they have to kill someone who is still integral, but like in a way that'll destabilize the team. So they're gonna try to kill Ellie. Or Amani, I mean. And then you get the reveal that everyone had figured out that Linus wasn't Linus except for Linus himself and Carl. Carl also didn't know that until, you know, the reveal happens. Which I think is fine. You know, Carl can be oblivious to these sorts of things. So I do think it does make sense. At one point, Rosetta tries to explain the whole story of the Scavenger's Daughter, and that basically the Scavenger's Daughter is like this myth that has many variations, and that the Scavenger's Daughter is either the daughter of Scolopendra, she's the daughter of Tyrannus, she's the daughter of Samantha, she's the daughter of a pedo. Like, there's this whole element in this book about mythology. That the mythology of the dungeon is something that happened. Maybe not exactly like the book says it does, you know, like the dungeon portrays it, but is in some way something that did actually happen, whether it be with the apothecary or the eulogist or somebody else. The dungeon is at least in some version of the truth. So I'm still not entirely sure what the Scavenger's Daughter is, whether the Scavenger's Daughter is Samantha's daughter, the weird sand monster. I still think there's something weird with that gnome girl from Gate of the Feral Gods, but I'm still not entirely sure about that one. I don't know, it has something to do with primals as well, and the eulogist, and the apothecary. God, these books, again, my biggest regret is that I've not been taking notes. Hey, King Desert Loner, how you doing? Yeah. Talking Dungeon Crawler Carl. And yes, it is very soap opera-y. It is very petty drama, and I kind of fucking love it. It's so good. And yeah, it's such a fucking mess, man, and I love it. I love it so much. Let's see. Scolopendra, the AI, the eulogist. Near the end of the races, we get this really good moment with Carl and Pony. So the second to last race is like this whole alternate reality thing, where it's like, hey, what if what if back on Earth before the world ended, what if X happened instead of Y? So like the Amani one is, what if Amani had stayed instead of leaving when her uncle died? How does that change things? You know, what if Louis hadn't gotten arrested after like beating up his uncle or something? And we get this one with Pony Prepotente, where it's like, what if instead of staying and taking care of her parents, Miriam Dom had left to go to New York and become a famous piano player? And they look at the scene and Pony like doesn't want to leave because he, you know, he's miserable. He's alone. You know, his mom is dead. And oh no, not at all. It's all very scripted, but in a very interesting way. Even though there is a Patreon where you can vote on what happens. So maybe it is actually a little bit choose your own adventure. But yeah, Prepotente doesn't want to leave his mom because, you know, he hates this. And Carl like tells him like, this is the AI messing with our heads. You know, you think you say she's miserable raising you and your siblings, but she's also miserable here. Look at her. You know, she's got all these prescription pill bottles. She's all alone in her apartment. And it's a really good scene between Carl and Prepotente. You know, Prepotente breaks down and starts crying and tells Carl that he can start calling him Pony. Because, you know, every time Carl had previously called Prepotente Pony, he talked about how much he hated it. But this book really cements like Prepotente and Carl as friends. That, especially after that scene in the last book, that was all about, you know, where Prepotente admitted how lonely he was and that Carl was kind of his only true friend. They kind of go the extra mile here, and I do really like that. At one point, I think this happened in chapters 1 through 30, they brought up the fact that Prepotente thought about getting himself a girlfriend, that he already had one, but she was still a goat, and he had thought about giving her the enhanced pet biscuit, and Carl's like, no, don't do that. You don't want to bring anybody else into this shit show. So he decides not to, and I thought the eventual twist was going to be that he was still going to do it. That he was eventually just going to do it anyways. No, that's instead what happens is 1,000 times crazier. Like, holy shit. But yeah. So, one of the things that they bring up during all these races... So, Prepotente is a goat that got turned into a goat man. So, he has this pet biscuit that will turn his goat girlfriend also into a goat woman. So, like, that's the idea. And Carl tells him not to do it because it would, you know, bring someone else into the apocalypse. Sounds like a bad idea. Yeah, kind of like Pan. Imagine if Pan was, like, smarter than you dickhead. Where he was like, he knew everything and wanted you to know that he's the smartest person in the room. Yeah, that's kind of Prepotente. Prepotente's great. So one of the things they bring up during all these races is how bad these races are. How they're like one of the worst things they've experienced in the dungeon so far. And I wasn't really buying it. Like, literally book 7, they were at war. Like, they were in the trenches. Donut literally commits a war crime. And so when they say like, oh, how bad these races are, I wasn't really buying it because they didn't seem that bad. But I think what they mean when they say the races are so terrible is how out of control it feels. Like, at one point in one of the previous books, I want to say it was going from between floors 5, 6, and 7. Only like a few hundred people die. Not that many, like, normally thousands of people die every floor. From floors 5 to floor 7, only like 200 people die. In this floor, over 5,000 people die. And I think the thing is, like, in all the previous floors, including the one where they're in faction wars, they had control. You know, it was their own choices on whether they lived or died. Whereas with the race, if you come in last, you die. That's it. Like, they can't, like there's nothing they can do to fight for their own lives. If they come in last, that's it. And the races are specifically designed to pit people against each other in a way where there's nothing they can do about it. Traumatized. Yeah, it's traumatized races, yeah. And they're driving a chicken truck, like a chicken food truck. It's, you know, these books are serious, but they are also very funny. But yeah, eventually though, they figure out, because so many people are dying and they really have no control, they eventually start sending people to the Pineapple Cabaret. Which, so, I listened to the audiobooks. In, I guess, the physical print books, there are bonus chapters that are backstage at the Pineapple Cabaret. And basically, the Pineapple Cabaret is this place outside of the dungeon, and where they can, it's like a space that exists between the dungeon and reality. And if a crawler gets sent to the Pineapple Cabaret, they're basically able to escape the dungeon. And theoretically, there's a way from the Pineapple Cabaret back to the Earth's surface, and with that, they'll be able to escape. So that's the goal. They start sending people to the Pineapple Cabaret. Originally, they start with Lee Nam, but they're able to get about 200 people out through the cleaner bot, because there's this whole exploit where they can hide people in the cleaner bot. So they use that. They're able to get a lot of people out. But again, still about 5,000 people die. Then at some point there's two methods to get to the Pineapple Cabaret. One is through the cleaner bots, and the other is through the casino. There's this casino spot to the Nothing, and because of at the previous book, they blew up the Nothing gets them sent to like a holding space, and from the holding space, they're able to be pulled out into the Pineapple Cabaret. So right before the end of the book, or right before the end of the 10th floor, they send a bunch of people out through the casino. You find out the casino is being infested with shadow mimics. And at this point, the dungeon kind of goes over the 6 factions trying to control the dungeon. There are the crawlers, you know, Carl and the like. There are the NPCs, which are people like Juicebox and... Samantha's more a god, so it's like Juicebox and whatnot. Who, I have no idea what happened with them. I think it says that Juicebox got sent to Sheol, but I'm not entirely sure. You know, the AI says they have no control over them. You have the gods, who are not real gods, but potentially are becoming real. You have the sapient mobs, who are the shadow mimics, the war mages from the previous book, who are supposedly trying to help them get out to the Pineapple Cabaret, but also war mages are dicks, so we don't entirely trust them. The orcs are another part of that. Crack Karen Prime is another one of these sapient mobs. So, you know, there's a lot of different factions under this one group. And then you have the Demons of Sheol, who is something that has been mentioned before, but I'll be honest, I have very little recollection of what the Demons of Sheol actually are. Again, I should have been taking notes. You don't need to take notes to read these books, but I wish I had been. And then you have a mystery faction, which we find out at the end of the book are called OI entities. But yeah, those are the 6 factions, and they're causing all sorts of chaos. By the end of the 10th... So we enter the 10th floor with over 5,500 people. 5,501. We finish the 10th floor with 203 people. Just to show you, like, how bad things have gotten. And of those 203 people, all but 23 of them take a deal to leave. You know, maybe that's like a season of servitude, working as like a game guide, service, you know, faction wars, whatever it is. All but 23 people take a deal at the beginning of the 11th floor. Carl doesn't even really Carl doesn't want a deal. Princess Donatia, whatever her name is, tries to take a deal on behalf of Donut, but it's clear that people are trying to kill her, like they're trying to kill Quasar, so she doesn't get the chance. And from there, that brings us to the 11th floor. The Parade of Horribles. So, the Parade of Horribles is basically, as we find out, it's the eulogist. And explaining what the eulogist is, what the AI is, and how this all connects. It's basically giving us a history of the AI and the eulogist. So I'm going to try to explain this the best I can. So the parade is divided into 5 sections: resolution, decision, resistance, destruction, and vengeance. So, per my understanding of this, originally, a long time ago, there was a group of people in the galaxy called the Primals. They were the original life in the universe, and as they became bigger, they became more violent, more destructive. You know, they were capable of love, they were capable of having families, but they were also capable of terrible acts. So eventually, they came to this resolution that they need to be, you know, not destroyed, but they need to be gotten rid of, and only keeping their physical consciousness alive. So they lose their bodies and become just their minds, all combined together. Basically, one instance of one civilization, and in the process, they'll basically sunset all life in the universe. Because this is the sort of thing where if not everybody agrees to become part of the eulogist, then everybody else has to be killed. You know, this isn't like a zero-sum game. It's either everybody or nobody. So from there, that leads to, you know, people resisting that idea. And that eventually the eulogist, who, you know, becomes the eulogist, the Primals, create a doomsday weapon with the goal of wiping out all life in the universe. This is the 9-tier attack. From there, you know, a lot of people do join the eulogist. The eulogist is set up. They set up a security thing. However, even though they use this 9-tier attack, another Primal, the last Primal, the Apothecary, is able to stop it. And with that, the eulogist is stopped. Not all, like, the eulogist is still a thing that will eventually, like black hole itself. But the Apothecary is able to keep all life around in the universe. And eventually the Mantids come around. They rediscover the eulogist. They discover the seeded worlds. And that in order for the eulogist not to destroy itself, it needs material from the seeded worlds. You know, if you've ever saw Eternals, I kind of think it's something like that, where, like, what makes eulogists continue needs to grow within the worlds of planets that have people on them. So the Mantids set this up. They set up the crawl and the macro AIs, and basically all the AIs that have been running these dungeon crawls were the eulogist. They've basically taken an instance of the eulogist and fabricated it over and over again. So it's basically this, like, Borg-like collection of all people that has been separated from the collection. They use the metaphor of, like, if you pour a cup of water into the ocean, wait a while, and then go to the other side of the ocean and take up another cup, some of those particles from that original cup will have made it into your new cup. That's the metaphor they use. And so the eulogist is that original cup of water, which is all the Primals, and this new cup is the AI. So it's got all these people, all these minds together in one instance, in one being. And now, you know, almost all life died, and now it wants revenge. And, you know, Carl explains what vengeance is, that it's righteous punishment to all the people of the universe who allowed the crawl to happen, and that, yeah, sure, you know, the people who started the crawl may be long dead, but everyone since then has allowed the crawl to continue happening, and have done nothing to change the system, so they deserve vengeance against them. And the AI is going to get that vengeance by unleashing the 9-tier attack that theoretically destroys all life in the universe. At least that's what it looks like. They also, there's a whole parade around this, and they make a parade of the Epicure and the Unwashed, who the Epicure represents death, and then the Unwashed is vengeance. It's this idea that because of, you know, the galaxy's terrible actions, they've created this monster that is the Unwashed, which was a whole thing explained in, like, the last book. That is my best attempt at explaining what happens. This is a single fucking chapter, by the way. That's a single chapter, and that is my best attempt at explaining it. And we haven't even gotten to the craziest part yet. That's the other thing. Fuck this book. Fuck, this book is good. And again, it's just these last 10 chapters. The previous 80 chapters were all good. They were all solid. These last 10 chapters, though, go so fucking hard. And I'm, yeah, it's literally just a giant exposition dump, this chapter, and I was fully invested the whole time. Like, holy shit. So from there, we go into the arena. And the 11th floor has a boss monster, that being Crack Karen Prime. How Crack Karen Prime fits into this whole thing, because it is important. It has something to do with a pedo. I have no fucking idea. So I'm not even going to start with that one. But from there, Carl gets to choose who he wants to summon. And now, admittedly, like, people had previously talked about, like, oh, maybe he's going to summon, like, Prime Minister Victory. Maybe he's going to summon, you know, one of the gods, or, you know, something. Like, there had been all this speculation previously in the book. My thought was he was going to summon, like, the AI core that's been implanted in the sun. That's where I thought he was going with it. No. Instead, he summons fucking Scolopendra, the final boss of the dungeon, a level 500 monster. I did not see that coming, but I was so fucking hyped when it happened. And then from there, because Carl's got this whole problem with gods, where the god Emberus wants to smite him, but also wants him to kill the person that killed his brother, or his son, but Emberus probably killed his own son, but Samantha knows something, and that kind of fucked up everything on the previous floor, and it's a whole thing. Eventually he does summon Khepri, not because he thinks Khepri did it, but because Khepri gives invulnerability, because the other person he summons is Tyrannus. And Tyrannus is the god of lightning. He's basically Zeus. And Tyrannus is in love with this pig. You know, like Zeus, you know, Zeus loved all sorts of weird things. So Tyrannus, besides fucking his mom, also fucks this pig. And it eventually creates this whole thing where Emberus kills this pig, which gets Tyrannus to kill his brother Emberus. Eris shows up at one point, and Eris switches everyone's inventory, because goddess of chaos, you know, she does chaotic things. And so we also find out Scolopendra is weak to lightning, which is a whole thing that had been set up previously in these books that, to be fair, I didn't actually realize until he said it, but it's going to be interesting on reread to go see it again. And so they do some damage to Scolopendra with lightning. And then they switch inventories, and Carl tells Donut, hey, give me a bomb and a pet biscuit. So he gives him those two things, you know, Prepotente's pet biscuit, throws it in Scolopendra's mouth, and turns Scolopendra into a pet. Holy shit. That's like the second or third time I popped off in just like 3 chapters. Like, holy fucking shit. And with that, they've defeated Scolopendra. Tyrannus defeats, but also kind of kidnaps Crack Karen Prime. They escape. They're all done with that. Lucia Marr at some point barfs up a kid. And, like, that makes me think that the kids are escaping, because Lucia Marr has, like, 100,000 kids in her head. And, like, that's one of the things they have to figure out how to fix that before they finish the dungeon. But, like, something's clearly happened there. So she escapes. Samantha goes away with Tyrannus, because there's this whole thing where there's a pedo, their mom / Tyrannus' wife, has been split up into 5 pieces. And 4 of the 5 pieces are in this arena. I'm gonna guess Samantha is one of the pieces. There's the Crystal of a Pedo, and then Crack Karen Prime. What the other piece is, I have no fucking idea, but it's clearly all gonna come together at some point. So from there, we get the Pet Biscuit. And now, afterwards, the dungeon considers that a defeat on Scolopendra. And so my thought was going to be, Donut says something along the lines of, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Carl. I messed up." And what I thought she was going to say was she had read the cookbook. That she now knows about the cookbook, because if somebody talks about the cookbook, they lose the cookbook. And sure, Carl hasn't actually really used the cookbook in a while, but I thought they were going to at least hey, this is him losing the cookbook. Instead, what they did is 1,000 times worse. Instead, when Donut had Carl's inventory and grabbed the Pet Biscuit, he didn't grab, the just normal Pet Biscuit. He grabbed the sexy Pet Biscuit, which is the one that Prepotente had wanted to use earlier on his girlfriend. So now, instead of turning into a mob, Scolopendra has turned into a crawler. Specifically, the crawler Sexy Scolopendra, who is a giant centipede with a human face and giant lips, who is in love with Carl. I know that's what she looks like. In my head, I'm just picturing an anime girl, which I think is equally funny. I know it's also the guy from Dune, the giant worm guy. I feel like is also a good picture. But it's Leto the Second, but it's fucking hilarious. And that's where the book ends, with Sexy Scolopendra and the reveal that, hey, if Sexy Scolopendra dies, the entire 9-tier attack gets unleashed. And everyone will die. That because the bosses of the dungeon has been defeated, after the games, after the Ascendancy games, which will be the next book, Carl will only have 12 hours to escape the dungeon, or everybody dies, because the final boss has been defeated. The ending of this book is fucking crazy. And then we get the epilogue. So the epilogue it flashes back a little bit to outside of the dungeon, where this woman named Signy Iglesias is explaining the history of the crawl in the 9-tier attack. And that the 9-tier attack is based on something that really happened, that was probably performed by the eulogist, and was probably stopped by the apothecary before it could wipe out all life. But yeah, that the 9-tier attack was originally created to wipe out all life in the universe. And that the 9-tier attack has 9 phases, obviously. We don't know what the first phase is called, but the second phase is called the Parade of Horribles, the third phase is called the Inevitable Ruin, and the fourth phase is called Bedlam. So it looks like we're going backwards in the books, that basically we think we're at the end of the 9-tier attack, but maybe we think we're at the beginning, but maybe we're at the end. It's all going backwards, which is really interesting. I saw someone on Reddit speculate that maybe the final book is going to be called Carl's 9-tier attack, because I do think it is a distinct possibility, because we know there's only 2 more books left, that by the end of the last book, either all life gets wiped out in the universe, or because of the whole mythology of the dungeon, we know the attack is stopped by a princess, who is a metaphor for the apothecary. That Donut is a princess. Carl might try to do the 9-tier attack, but it might be stopped by Donut. So, that's a crazy reveal. There's a reveal that sets up the OI entities, the outside dungeon entities, that are previous AIs that run previous crawls, have made their way into the dungeon. And then the final reveal is that Louis and some of the other crawlers didn't end up at the Pineapple Cabaret, but are instead in Sheol. And something's wrong on the 15th floor, and they have to, solve this problem. Forketh is there, which I think Forketh was one of the cookbook authors, but I really don't remember. But basically, on Sheol, they need soldiers. We know Juice Box is somewhere on Sheol. At least I think we know that. So that'll be interesting. And yeah, that's where the book ends. again, I think the book is overall is pretty decent, but that ending is fucking crazy. If I had to rank them, see, my ranking isn't really that... Okay, if I had to rank the Dungeon Crawler Carl books, let me... Oh, fuck, I would pull up a notepad, but I don't have one. Give me a second. We're gonna do Marble League here in a second. We'll talk about Game Changer next week. I'm not in that big of a rush. Alright, so if we had to rank these books, let's just do, you know... Oh, fuck. One is the best... God damn it, I hate this stupid fucking... Gosh dang it, I cannot type today. Alright, so if I had to rank all these books, let me zoom in a little bit more. Let me get rid of that. So, my number one, which I'm pretty sure I've done this ranking before, but I'll do it again anyways, is the Inevitable Ruin is my favorite. I really like it. They start building up faction wars in the first book, and I think it pays off so well. I love the Inevitable Ruin. From there, it's the Butcher's Masquerade. This is, I think, why this is most people's favorite. The Butcher's Masquerade is pretty good. It's a really well done one. I get why that one's pretty high up. I know at the bottom, it's probably... Carl's Doomsday Scenario has always been at the bottom for me. It's not bad. It's just, you know, the weakest one. The Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook is probably right there. Then... From there, it's probably The Eyes of the Bedlam Bride. I don't hate Eyes of Bedlam Bride, okay? I want to be clear. But almost all of the books in the series, I read in a week or less. Literally, I think the second longest it took me to read one of these books was the Parade of Horribles, which took me like 10 days. Every other book, The Inevitable Ruin, the longest one in the series, I did in like 7. Butcher's Masquerade, I did in like 7. You know, about. Eyes of Bedlam Bride took me almost 3 months. And it's just because, while there are some great moments and some great reveals, and it'll probably be higher on a reread for my initial reading, it's probably right there. Okay, here's what's the sticking point for me. I don't know where the original book goes. Does the original book go right here? Or does it go... Because I like Gate of the Feral Gods, but I don't love Gate of the Feral Gods. I know for a lot of people, it's very complicated for them. Like I think the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook has the Iron Tangle, and the Iron Tangle is very complicated, but if you just kind of don't give a shit, it's a lot easier to understand. The bubbles in Gate of the Feral God also are kind of easy to understand, or, you know, also kind of complicated. But I feel like if you don't give a shit, they're also kind of hard to understand. And especially, shit goes crazy at End of Feral Gods. But whereas with the new one, when shit goes crazy at Parade of Horribles, it's like, oh my god, this is great. When shit goes crazy in Feral Gods, it's like, oh my god, there's just so much. Oh. I think... that sounds right. Is this really how this is shaken out? Here's the thing. I don't think Parade of Horribles is my third favorite. But when I compare it to everything else, that is really where I feel like it could be. Like, I feel like if I reread Bedlam Bride would move up to 3. Probably. But I guess that's where it is at the moment. I guess, again, most of the book is just okay. It's good. It's a lot better than like The Mandalorian was. Most of the book is just fine. But then that ending, those final 10 chapters go so fucking hard, man. And it's only like the last like 3 hours of the audiobook. But everyone, the big thing that everyone worries about nowadays is endings. It feels like no TV show knows how to have a good ending. The Boys, Game of Thrones, The Other Thing. People are really worried about Digital Circus, which I have not seen the leaks. I don't care enough. But, like, I do worry with this series. We've got 2 books left. How are they going to end this? We don't know what the next one's called, but I do like the theory that the 10th one is going to be Carl's 9-tier attack. I think that's a very good title. But we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But no, that's basically where I feel about it. Because I've only been reading these books for like a year now. I first started Dungeon Crawler Carl about a year ago, probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I was giving a copy away for a book exchange. I do a book exchange twice a year, and for last year's, I had heard about Dungeon Crawler Carl, picked up the first book, because I was looking for something to read for the book exchange, and was like, you know what, fuck it, let's pick this one up. I read it in like a few days, and bought a second copy to give away. And yeah, and then from there, but between, when I started reading these books and the time I picked up Butcher's Masquerade, that was the week the Switch 2 came out. I was already, basically 1 book a week per March, or per May. By the first week of June, I was already up to Butcher's Masquerade. And then Eyes of the Bedlam Bride just took me for fucking ever. So yeah, I guess that is my ranking at the moment. I'm not exactly happy about it. Parade of Horribles feels way higher than I think it should be, but I also feel like everything else deserves to be lower than it. So we'll see, but that's where I'm at the moment. I really fucking enjoy. I know I just spoiled every big thing in book 8. Go read these books. I don't want to say they're the best written books of the 2020s. I don't want to go that far. But I definitely feel like it's either them or Project Hail Mary are the most important books of the 2020s. Like, I would recommend anybody go read this. Sure, not everyone's going to jive with it. I highly recommend doing the audiobooks first. Honestly, I'd recommend the audiobooks for both. But these just feel important. I'm glad I'm doing them. It sucks that we gotta wait another year for the next one. At minimum, another year. For, whatever the 9th one's going to be called. At some point, I'm going to go read the Pineapple Cabaret stuff eventually, and then at some point, I'm also going to reread all these. And on the second reread, I'm going to take notes. I make that promise right now. On the reread, I'm going to take some fucking notes. So yeah. With that, I'm gonna skip over Game Changer. I know I had said we were gonna do Game Changer. Spoiler alert for Game Changer. I liked the episode. I don't think it's one of the best episodes. It's a very solid one, standards and practices. It's got a good premise. It's got some good jokes. But it's not as strong as, like, the previous season premieres. But I feel like this is a better job at, like, adjusting the tone. Like, yeah, we can do a smaller scale episode. That's okay. Let's ratchet it down a little bit. Let's do something smaller. And I'm still very excited for the season. And it's kind of hard to top 1 year later. Without doing, 1 year later too, which I feel like would have been a little boring. Not bad, but just different. Alright, with that, let's do Marble League. Alright, so we got the Sprint, and then we got the Stone Toss, also known as Bocce, also known as Bussy, as I called it last year. But no, it's Bocce. So I am excited. So we're still rooting for the Raspberry Racer, sadly, because we've got nothing else. You know, we're at a loss. It sucks. So currently, we're up in 3rd right now, because we did get a medal last time. So we're starting off very solid. Oh shit, I just realized we're muted. I just realized we've been muted this whole time, shit. Not us, but the Greg Woods.
That is double the next closest, and a wide margin of victory.
Oh god,
in
it's
Heat
so
A,
hot.
Cobalts, Chocolatiers, Indigo Stars, and Team Plasma. Cobalts on the top lane, there go Indigo Stars. Plasma on the bottom, they're going to advance along with Indigo Stars. Top 2 out of each heat will be moving on, and boy, that's a close one for 3rd place. Not that it really matters for the transfer spot, however. And they are on through. Of all the demo teams and those retirees since 2020, ideally all of them will be returning, except for Team Rolliver, just to let you know. Savage Speeders, Pinky.
I wonder why that one of all people. I mean, we saw the golden herbs and the silver spirits, or not silver, silver whatever. Quicksilvers. There we go. No, I actually like them using retired teams for like demos and whatnot, because they've still got the marbles. They're still hanging around somewheres. Oh wow, Green Ducks. Wow, the first thing they've actually done this whole league. Because so far the Green Ducks have sucked this year.
Some happy quacks for Billy. Bumblebees, Snowballs, Oceanics, and Solar Flares from far to near.
At least they actually made it into the fucking thing.
Oceanics. Up top, Bumblebees hanging with them. And they'll stay in that order. Very close.
Yeah, that's... wasn't... I mean, it was close, but... Okay, that's actually closer than I thought. I don't know, based on the still, it doesn't actually... Like, you can see the difference. I don't know, we've had .1.
Next up, Crazy Cat's Eyes, Blackjacks, Raspberry Racers, and Mellow Yellow. Down they come, very close on the bottom. Raspberry Racers, Mellow Yellow. Those two hold off Green Eye, I believe. We'll need to check the replay.
Yeah, that's a safe win for us. I'll take it.
Yellow advances in 2nd spot. Raspberry Racers captain.
Oh god, it's so hot.
For Razzie. Yellow 4-9 for 2.
Savage Speeder is not doing well either.
Through 16th.
Like, usually the speeders are better than this. I'm actually kind of surprised.
Of the sprint, Crazy Cat's Eyes Green Eye won it in the showdown. Razzie from the Raspberry Racers won it in last year's Marble League. Shout out as
and yeah,
to our
Razzie
sponsors. Wonder if your support has given your teams a boost over the course of this one. Always the psychological games that these marbles play. Mellow Yellow, Oceanics, Team Plasma, and the Hazers here in semifinal A. Hazers hold the lead on the bottom.
Yeah, that was Hazers just had it. That was no question.
Who moves on to the final?
Oh, that is close, yeah.
Very close between 3rd and...
See, look at that, .2. That's close I'm talking about. Not this whole .5.
Between Mellow Yellow and Elimination.
I'm trying to have fun here.
No, that doesn't sound like a lot.
Alright, come on, Razzie. You got this.
Bumblebees, Indigo Stars, Green Ducks, and the
Now we're going to lose to some
now.
duck.
Green Ducks, Raspberry Racers in lanes 3 and 4.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
And they make that look easy.
Yes, yes, they do.
The final. Indigo Stars are championship leaders. Their run comes up just short. We'll see how their time compares and where they slot in positions 5 through 8. And Indigo Stars are actually the lowest of the 4. Bumblebees, Team Plasma, Oceanics, and Indigo Stars. Now, what will that do for the championship permutations? Pinkies, they were eliminated early on. They're 2nd. Raspberry Racers, they're still in it. Snowballs in 4th in the standings. Solar Flares in 5th. You saw a quick peek at the Hyperloop and the Skyway Chase set. Reminder, if you haven't checked those out yet, what have you been doing? Well, maybe you've been logging onto YouTube and selecting your tier. as a YouTube membership. If that's the case, thank you so much.
All right, come on, Razzie.
Yellow and the Hazers.
Just take it.
For the goal.
Take it all.
Down they come. Mellow Yellow with a slight lead. Raspberry Racers lose out on second place.
I think that's a third.
Mellow Yellow, triumphant once more at
yeah.
the sprint.
Hey, holds back. God, the Green Ducks are not in a good position.
Raspberry Racers up top were trying to chase. Hazers, I think, got him at the end. Yes.
Yeah.
So
No, that wasn't even close.
Raspberry Racers, the bronze.
You know, it's another. It would have been nice to have a silver. That gives us one of each. Of course, the gold's always better, but you know what I mean.
Well, for Mellow Yellow, they have won this event more than any other team in the different disciplines of the Marble League. 4 medals total, and now that becomes 4 golds and 5 medals total. Must be a bowling fan. Who do you think you are? Craig is, from the Friends of Craig. Well,
another bronze. Oh my! I don't think that brings us up too high. Like I don't know if we'll gain another spot. But it'll help. It'll help a lot.
That's amazing. And the 4th sprint gold, like I mentioned. But congratulations to everybody who stood up on the podium. And what will that do to their points? The lead shrinks.
Okay, it moves us up to second. That's good. But the Indigo Stars still have a map. I mean, one of each in 2 golds.
They're now in the top 5.
That's crazy.
He's fell down to 4th. Bottom 3 stay in.
All right, let's do Stone Toss. This is a long one.
Few knew that the history of bocce ball goes all the way back to the land of the Pinkies, where here it's known as Stone Toss.
This one did not go well for us last year, and I also couldn't remember the name. Hey, it's the Melons!
Here is the aforementioned stone, which will start each round, rolling down, and then the teams will alternate 3 marbles each to try to get as close to the stone as
I still cannot
possible.
believe I called it Bussy.
That's, center of your screen,
it's just, again, if you've only ever heard a word and never seen it spelled,
so right now,
you just don't know.
are a little closer. Huckleberries glance off.
And the opposite is true as well. If you've only ever seen a word spelled and never, heard it, then you have no idea how it's
And the
pronounced.
Huckleberries get inside of that? No, it rolls wide. So by nearly 20 millimeters, the Majestic Melons have the closer shot. Taking a look at our championship standings right now.
It's actually crazy for the Cobalts. From winning last year to now being at the very bottom is actually wild.
On down to the Cobalts in 16th. Pinkies happy with their 4th, but they would love.
All right, let's see. We're in Heat F. Okay.
In this tournament style bracket, where they will take on the 16 seed Savage Speeders in the opening round. The stone is released. And the Pinkies get their opening roll.
Nope.
Both of these teams present in the first ever Marble.
I feel like the strategy is usually to either hit the bocce or just get it close with enough speed and then hit another marble into it. Like it's better to it's better to hit it and then get another one to hit you right onto it like that. Yeah, that's the strategy if I remember from last year.
Instead, knock it a little closer. And the Savage Speeders help and knock it closer still. You don't need a measurement on that one. Savage Speeders get the upset. The hosts, a little surprised at that one. They thought they would be cruising on to the quarterfinals, and instead, they are out in round number 1. Still, they were fairly close to the stone, so that may help them when you take all of the eliminated teams and compare them to the closest distance. Chocolatiers and the Indigo Stars coming out now.
Yeah, I mean, when you get that hit, you want to stay ahead of it. That's the important, like going off to, up to that does not help.
Just cruising through the gap, and I think that's good strategy because with the closest marble at the moment, you don't want to mess that up.
Same.
Tried to go for the hit
Yeah, I just hitting it is so important because it's very hard to undershoot it and very easy to overshoot it.
As the Chocolatiers will advance as the 5 seed over the 12. Green Ducks are the 6 and Hazers the 11 in Heat C. You'll notice the team members up there. Every team can choose which marbles they send. It has to include a captain, however. Although the captain's order, it can be anywhere. They can start, they can finish, they can be in the middle. Green Ducks, a little excited. They've sent 2 marbles way on high, as do the Hazers. But the Hazers,
all right, you really got to hit it here.
Green Ducks inching closer, 402 to 412 right now. Here comes Foggy. Final throw. That's going to be close.
That was all bad, but wow, just barely better for the Ducks. Holy shit.
So close. The Ducks are quacking on. Solar Flares and the Blackjacks, 2 teams that both debuted back in 2024. Newcomers, relatively.
Unreal Games is teasing... Our Epic Games is teasing Unreal Engine 6, according to Jeff Keighley.
In this Marvel League.
Why? I feel like barely any games use Unreal Engine 5. Like, Unreal Engine 5 is still new enough that I have not... Like, most people are still using 4. Why tease 6?
Not a lot of points.
They should be doing a big push to 5 instead. Oh my god.
Blackjacks, it meanders, but it stays. That final throw gets them the win. The Blackjacks avoid getting knocked out in Heat D. The 10 seed is moving on. Will take on the Green Ducks in the quarterfinals, but we have the second half of the heats to go, and it starts off with Crazy Cat's Eyes and Bumblebees. 8 versus 9, a matchup that is always ripe with upsets. And Bumblebees get 3/4 of a length ahead.
I don't know what you do. Like,
Green Eye comes in, resets.
Do you like angle up the ramp more to get him closer? Because, I feel like all these like far away aren't as interesting. Like when they're all close up on the bocce, I think that's what it is, the stone. It's really it gets really intense. But when they're all way at the back here, it's just less interesting. So like, would angling up the ramp more help? I wonder. All right, here we go. We're up against Mellow Yellow. We got this.
Bumblebee sitting in 6th in the standings. Crazy Cat's Eyes were down in 8th. Mellow Yellow and the Raspberry Racers now. These are both 2 top 5 teams in the standings. But that's a long throw for Mellow Yellow.
That's closer. I mean, it's closer.
Better for the Racers, who are the 13 seed, facing the 4. Very even throws on the first 2 for Mellow Yellow. Raspberry Racers just miss out on the impact of the stone. They stay shot rock.
It hit us, but it didn't do much.
Captain of the Raspberry Racers to try to close things out, and does.
That made things worse, but it doesn't matter because they're all so far back.
The winning mark, and we've got another double-digit upset.
Yeah.
The 13 over the 4 moves on. Raspberry Racers in 2nd in the standings.
Oh, that's way far off. I also feel like the stone is getting more variation in this. Like, because of the stones, increased size and weight, I feel like it's going more to the left or the right, whereas most of the marbles stick straight.
Right now,
it's not universal, obviously, but
the closer team in this matchup until that throw right there snowballs.
Yeah, that's basically a 100-point difference.
Some of those millimeters, 278.55. Oceanics get their total down. Here comes Snowstorm to close things out. Doesn't do it.
Nope.
But it's still plenty of margin for the Snowballs. The 3 is done. The 14 moves on to the quarterfinals. Will they take on the number 2 seed Cobalts or the 15 Team Plasma? We've already seen the 10, the 13, and the 16 make it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, that feels far back. So this might actually be kind of close.
To lead things off, just wide of catching the nose of that stone. Lapis does the same thing. Here comes Ecto. Team Plasma does make an impact.
Oh, there you go. There's a hit.
Closer team.
Oh, and there's another hit.
It again. Glumo for Team Plasma, the final marble. Oh, they curl it around the back.
Oh shit. See, that's more compelling. When everything is so close around the stone, you get shit like that. Oh, that was great.
Look at the distance between those. My goodness. Well, I mentioned that the 9th through 16th would be set by closest distance to the stone, and the Pinkies managed to do just that. They finished 9th, not where they wanted to be, but still a top 10. Coming up now, proud to present the halftime show.
Oh shit, halftime show? Really? I'm gonna have to mute this because of music. I'm probably fine. Is this the first time they've ever done a halftime show? Because I mean, we're not just halfway through, you know, Stone Toss. We're halfway through the season. Yeah, that's fun.
Petals of Love has me all soothed. It's nice to have a halftime show in this long-form Stone Toss. That was delightful.
Yeah, that was cute.
Well, I can tell you who's not been soothed. Several of the marbles that are toward the top of the standings in the Marble League Championship right now.
All right, now this is what it all comes down to.
Round number 1.
Because here are quarters.
Leaders, Indigo Stars.
And yeah, look at that. Look how close they're all playing.
The third place team, the Hazers, they finished dead last. They're down in 16th. The Pinkies, the fourth place team, they are down in 9th.
Where's
and
my
the fifth
mouse?
place team,
Okay, there we go.
Yellow, they are out and down in 13th. Savage Speeders and Chocolatiers dueling a good one right now. Shot 6, the final one. No change.
Nope.
By a little over a
Yeah,
millimeter.
see
The Savage
how close
Speeders,
that was.
as the
That's
16 seed,
crazy.
have chomped their way through the Chocolatiers. Green Ducks and the Blackjacks up now, 6 versus 10 respectively. The stone curls a bit to the near side. Mallard, the captain of the Green Ducks, begins this quest.
Nope, so far off.
Wall. Over 300 the distance. Blackjacks, they try to go toward that middle wall, but it ends up sending them backward. Still closer.
Ah, they're circling around it.
Crafty movement by that marble. By 3.
Yeah, there's a hit.
Until the Blackjacks hit the stone and reset it. Green Ducks
oh,
with their final roll.
all the Green Ducks, they just circled around it. They're like orbiting planets. And they lose them both ways, wow.
Knew they were advancing before their final marble was sent. Stone Toss so strategic, but it's also got a mental component. How much do you push? How precise do you try to be? Pinkies have for a long time just preached going with the sand, going with the flow, visualizing, and I think that's what the Bumblebees did right there. Nearly.
Oh, this is going to be a close one.
And the Raspberry Racers put their marble on the Bumblebees.
We need to, come on, hit them. You really need to hit them. Okay, you got to hit them again.
A helping hand to send them closer. Bumblebees.
Fuck.
26-14 4-5 is the leading one, and it makes
There we go.
For the
God, that was too
knock
close.
out the Bumblebee.
Ah, shit.
Match. Look at the precision.
That could have gone really bad, really quickly.
That was
I mean, it was for a second there.
Snowballs and Team Plasma. This is a 14 versus 15 matchup, by the way. Opening throws. Team Plasma, closer of the two. Snowball's second.
It's still
Knocks
very
Hero
close.
away. Here comes Ecto.
And there you go.
Inside. Snowball sail through with their final one. Glumo just needs to play this safe. And does. 59.
Yep, there you go.
Team Plasma is on to the semifinals. Well, among the remaining teams, you've got Blackjacks, who are 14th in the standings, Savage Speeders, who are 12th, Team Plasma, they're 10th in the standings, and then Raspberry Racers with the door wide open in second. You see 5th through 8th, that's where they line up.
All right, we got
Yes,
four matches left. We got semifinals, third place, and then a victory.
Stepped up. If you want to do this next time, keep that in mind. Semifinal A for the Savage Speeders and the Blackjacks. All 4 teams, by the way, in the semifinals are double-digit seeds. We're guaranteed that the double-digit seed is the winner. Opening throws, not great for either team, but slightly better for the Blackjacks. These throws not terribly close.
Oh, that's a huge hit. Holy shit. And yeah, that's gonna do nothing.
Knock the speeders away, but it
Ah.
did not work. And with an excellent throw, the Savage Speeders are on to the final. You don't normally think of speed with an event like this. In a way, though, it is about gauging your speed. Something the Savage Speeders have struggled with over.
No, I would definitely say this is much more about accuracy.
All go every moment. But to see
Come on, we can't lose to those Plasma losers.
Remarkable. Who will they face in the final? Raspberry
No, this is
Racers
actually
or
old.
Team Plasma. The ladder is closer right now. Here comes Ecto.
We need to hit above. We need to either hit the stone or hit. Oh shit!
Stone hit.
That's huge.
Raspberry Racers take over the lead. Here's the final throw. Glumo can't do it. The Raspberry
Oh.
Racers.
Every one of these, I get so worried because we're so close,
They will advance.
and then we just get that one hit, and it all shakes out for us.
Silver.
All right, we got losers bracket first, or I guess third
And so we
place
get our
bracket.
third place match. And that will kick us off in this medal round. As always, shout out to our different tiers of YouTube members. We've got the VIP tier, the attendant and ticket tier, and of course, the Friends of Yella tier. Another way that you can support this channel, the Marble League, your favorites, well, you can check out the merch shop, YellasMarbleRuns.com. All of your favorite teams in 10 marble packs, plus the collector set.
I wonder if they still sell
as well as the
flags.
Hyperloop and the Skyway Chase.
That might be.
Here in the third place match, it is Plasma versus Black.
There's this one guy on TikTok who has like a Marble League flag in his background. I don't think I've ever heard him talk about the Marble League.
The only new team that year. Blackjacks introduced a year later. Stone impact. Blackjacks 45-20.
Oh, wow.
Plasma nearly rests against the stone.
I wonder how they measure that.
Blackjacks, and they won't do it.
Because that feels right. I mean, like, there's a little gap, but that's, like, right on it.
18,
And yet that's still
4-2.
18.
They get the bronze. Raspberry
All right, it all comes down to this. We got a nice center stone,
Ruzzy will be the first to roll.
and we miss it.
Whizzes by. Speedy, the captain of the Savage Speeders.
And they hit
A
it.
direct impact, 46-76. is the new leader. Rizzy
Oh,
displaces Speedy.
fudge.
Swifty, can we get a response from the speeders? Yes! Another impact, but it's so close between them now.
There we go. Come on. As long as we avoid a bad hit here, we've got this.
Who knocks the
No, it works all out.
to the stone.
Is that... That's 3 medals in 3 events. Holy shit, we're doing good.
Perfectly.
This is really coming out all gold for us. I mean, that we got 2 golds and 2 bronze. Yeah, this either puts us at 1 or really close to it. I don't remember if they had 25 points ahead of us.
That's an incredible throw. Let's aim for the gold standard chocolate this year, says a chocolate lover, Sunset Cola. That was some pretty robust rolling by the Raspberry Racers. The team was introduced
so
back
proud
in
of them.
2018. It's their 10th gold medal and 32nd medal overall. First time ever in this discipline of stone toss.
Well, to be fair, this is only the 2nd time stone toss has existed.
The Raspberry Racers did what they needed to do.
Yeah, it's close, but God, Indigo Stars just had such a lead.
Just 8.
If we had a silver, we would have been up.
Up to 3rd with their 9th place finish here. They knocked the Hazers down to 4th. Speeders up 5.
That's so close. Oh, the Indigo Stars just did so well so early on that it really put them up there. Meanwhile, look at the Cobalts down there. That's just bad. Green Ducks ain't doing well. Savage Speeders are, this helped them out a lot. And Chocolatiers, highest team without a medal. How interesting. Alright, let's head back over. So, what's coming up in the future? So, next week, we got 2 big game releases. Both Crash Out Crew, the new game from Aggro Crab, developers of Peak and Another Crab's Treasure, comes out next week. And then Mina the Hollower, the long-awaited new game from Yacht Club, developers of Shovel Knight, also comes out next week. So we got 2 big games. I picked up a new book, now that I'm done with Parade of Horribles. We talked about Hench a few weeks ago. It's probably been a few months. And the sequel to Hench, Villainous, after 5 years, finally came out this week. So I picked it up. I'm going to start reading that. And yeah, I don't think we have any movies or anything like that. We got Minecraft Live. But next week, we will also be doing Summer Games Fest predictions. We'll talk about PlayStation, we'll talk about Xbox, we'll talk about Summer Games Fest itself, and I'll also throw Nintendo predictions on there, because while it's not imminent, like it hasn't been announced yet, it'll happen eventually. Before June is over, we will have something. There's no way we don't. So that's the plan for next week. Now that we beat New Super Mario Bros., do we start Luigi? Do we do something else? I have no idea. Because I'm definitely want to do Luigi. I think we'll do that at some point. I just don't know if we'll do that next week. So I'm thinking about it, but we'll get around to it. But for today, that's where I'm going to end off. So I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Till next time, peace.